live, waiting for YouTube to catch up. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Dark Tower Palaver.
Hello.
This is our podcast slash YouTube channel. We're here to record our 20th book club of the Wastelands. So this is our second to last book club for 2022.
You almost said 2020, didn't you?
No, I almost said 2021.
Did you really?
Yeah, I had to stop and look down the thing here and
wait a minute, that's not right.
Yeah, remember what year we're in here. But yes, second to last one of the year, part 20. We're getting pretty close to the end here. I was noticing actually we're way closer than it appears as well, because our percentages are off because there's a bonus thing at the back of the book. So
preview book 4, right?
Yeah, so I don't think we're that far off from the very end here. But yeah, we're chugging right along. But yeah, we're here. Let's go ahead and we're still a few minutes early. Don't know if we got anyone in the chat. Looks like Spencer. Hello, Spencer. Carol popped in for a second. I'm not sure if she's back at zeroed out for a second. But then again, I don't know if I can trust YouTube's counters. But
yeah.
Welcome everyone especially that is stateside. I know Thanksgiving is coming up. It's always a lovely holiday, right, Peter?
Oh no.
Peter has bitterness because his birthday is right in that realm where Thanksgiving would ever so often fall on his birthday. So
it didn't matter if my birthday fell on it or not. It just overshadowed my birthday every year. Like, I couldn't have a birthday party. Like,
yeah.
I mean, my parents were great and they did what they could, like, but so many people go out of town for Thanksgiving going and visiting relatives and they don't have time for some 8-year-old's birthday party. So
yeah.
I think I had 3 growing up, something like that. I mean, the early years, obviously, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But like,
I always envy the kids that had birthdays during the school year. So I just feel like they got a little bit more attention and stuff. Like mine is, but like, or no, actually, I wanted to be in the summer because then you usually had more stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like my brother's is just before school started, and then mine's after school. And I just feel like with school kind of ate up, you couldn't like do an all day thing or whatever. But yeah, it was always just like, you get to bring treats to class or whatever. That nonsense. It's like I should be getting treats, not bringing treats.
Yeah, you have to provide for your friends, even though it's your birthday.
Yeah, exactly. That's backwards. But yeah, welcome everyone in the live chat. Thank you guys for joining us. It's a couple minutes early, but I wonder if we should hit the old intro and just get started.
Oh, let's do it.
All right, let's go ahead and get rolling with the intro.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin. Oy.
Just checking to see if I'm if I'm paying attention.
No, I just figured, we'll throw some Oy in there on the intro on the other side of the episode. He usually gets a little appearance at the end of the episodes, but
there we go.
And yes, I knew it would throw you off as well, so that also makes it fun. But but to start properly, my name is Tad.
I'm Peter,
and we're here for our book club episode. We're Dark Tower Palaver, of course, the podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus.
You threw off the opening
series.
all over.
I know,
all over the place. It's just like
it's chaos.
Yeah, just like you like it.
Yes, chaos is fun. But yeah, we're here for part 20 of the Wastelands book club. This will be our second to last book club of this year. We got one more episode in December, and then we will be. I don't know what we have it calendared out. I think we're going to be finishing this book in April. So, which means in May we'll be starting book 4.
Yeah,
that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. I can't wait for that. My favorite book of the series, followed in a couple of years by your favorite book in the series. So.
I don't know if we'll ever get to book 5. It's gonna book 4 is a hefty one.
I think it is probably about time before too long to start having a discussion of where Went to the Keyhole falls for our book club series, because we're getting close to that decision point. Well, relatively close. In the next 4 or 5 years,
we can see it on the horizon.
Yeah, exactly. But let's go ahead and hit the intro stuff real quick. First, there is no spoiler warning. We have a spoiler section at the very end. We will make sure that both the slideshow, if you're watching, or the audio, we have a little sound warning that will be played before we get into that section. So there will be no kind of stumbling into that section by accident. You will know, and it will just be at the very end of the episode. If you haven't finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you can stick to the first part of this episode. We'll only go where we're at in the books or before. We won't jump ahead and say anything spoilerly, but we will spoil anything from previous books or anything up to this point. Definitely, or not definitely, but possibly. Next up, you want to find us on, you can do that on Apple Podcasting. You can find us on Spotify or Stitcher. You can find us on any podcasting service that is out there. If you could subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. Then on YouTube, we do our live streams. If you want to join us live and be part of the conversation, like so far we have Carol, Spencer, and Mike. Hello, everyone. It's always fun to have you guys as part of the conversation, whether it's giving your guys' insight or throwing emojis in there to piss Peter off. It's always fun stuff. So.
Is there a turkey emoji? That'd just be like the dagger for this
the
week.
Ultimate, yeah. Because Peter hates Thanksgiving.
I guess we covered that in the YouTube intro. Yeah, on the podcast side, I hate Thanksgiving because it always overshadows my birthday, which is not this Sunday the 20th. It's next Sunday the 27th. So my birthday always just kind of got lumped in with Thanksgiving, and it's like, oh, birthday cake? We don't need that. We're having pie.
Yeah. Which makes me surprised you don't hate pumpkin pie.
Dude, I can't hate pumpkin pie because it's so freaking good. That's why.
Disgusting. No,
I can't believe you don't like pumpkin. It's so weird to me. It just seems like something you would love.
Yeah, I did when I was younger.
Oh, is it one of those ones you just grew out of?
Yeah, I just grew out of the taste of it. But
okay.
Yeah, but then on top of that, I don't know if it's because of or in conjunction with that, you also hate turkey. So yes, and you hate emoji. So if there were a turkey emoji, I'm just letting everyone know in the chat, that would be something that Peter would disapprove of. But on the YouTube side, if you guys are with us here live, if you can, or if you're joining us in the future, if you want to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, that way if there's ever anything like just last week, we had an episode that should have been 2 weeks ago, they got moved. If things like that happen, the notifications will always let you know when we're going live. I always try to send out notification blasts on social media as well, so you guys know we're going live. But if anyone has listened to the show for any period of time, y'all know that I don't have the best memory. So sometimes the social media blasts, I remember 10, 15 minutes into the episode and go, fuck, I didn't do it. So notification is awesome. Those are on the YouTube side. You can find our show notes, and as well as all things Dark Tower Palaver. The hub at the center of the wheel of Dark Tower Palaver is our website, darktowerpalaver.com. There's links to everything there that everything that has to do with us can be linked and found there, as well as show notes. There's no show notes for book clubs, of course, but you can go there and find the new questions for new listeners or past show notes, or links to all the fun stuff here. Then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. If you want to support us and send Peter turkey emojis all week long between episodes, or the 2 weeks between episodes, you can always do that being part of our Discord server, as well as our Hangouts. Looks like I am seeing some turkey emojis there.
Yeah, I searched. There is one.
I like that. I'm happy about it. Now, the only thing I'm really still disappointed of is there's no symbol monkey. I feel like that's such just an iconic thing now in like cultural history. I feel like that should be an emoji, but the fact that it isn't just annoys me.
Write a YouTube Google and just be like, hey,
yeah,
what do I got to do?
But the thing is, I don't think that it's even that anymore now. I think there's actually like a governing body for emojis, because emojis, like there's like dedicated ones now, like whether you're on Apple or Android or whatever.
Yeah, I noticed
share.
that, like, I have a keyboard programmed into my phone that I've had for like 4 phones now.
Yeah,
and it has like my history for like swiping and stuff like that. And I'll put the smiley, like a smiley face emoji or something. Yes, I do use emojis.
See,
it is true.
The truth comes out.
But like a laughing emoji that to something my wife sent me or something like that is slightly different than if I send it on like Facebook Messenger or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's still like the same, like smiley. It's
Yeah.
just a slight variation.
There's
to
the
it.
ones that look like they're melting marshmallows.
Yes.
Yeah, there's those little bastards. There's the round ones. Yeah, no, honestly, all tormenting Peter aside, which is hard for me to do, emojis are very useful because in a very text-heavy, society we live in now, it is very critical sometimes to make sure that context is given, and text doesn't give you, there's no tone of voice and stuff, so emojis are good indicators potentially of what you're...
That's really like the number one reason why I use them is I'm like, God damn it, smiley face. Okay, he's not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. But then if you want to contact us or interact with us in other ways, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
The best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. How's our mailbag looking, Tad? Is it still...
We've been getting some responses to
Good.
our March Madness. So
excellent.
I haven't
we should talk about that for people who haven't...
Yeah, I haven't taken a deep dive into them yet, but yes. So March Madness, we announced last week on the round table. We've thrown it out there. I don't have a slide or anything prepped right now, and I'm kind of blanking. What was the exact wording of what we were?
Is it best? Was it best?
Let me actually see if
I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna say anything because we had like 4 ideas, and I don't want to spoil like next year's or the year after's.
Let's see here if I can. Oh, yes. Oh, I can find the slide. It is best Dark Tower moment.
Moment, right.
So, yes, moment, and we define that by a moment is short. We don't want something like door 3 is not a moment. But now Roland in the guns, the is it pawn shop gun store?
It's a gun store.
Gun store. That's a moment because it's a small, contained thing.
Yeah.
Whereas all of door 3, which we all love all of that for the most part. It's just too much. So that's kind of where we're trying to define. Just send those in because basically what we need to do is we need to fill up those first 16 spots, and then come March we will start voting and we will crown the Dark Tower Palaver best moment. So best moments, send them on in. But yes, to interrupt for what Peter was saying, send them in. They are coming in on the email. You can do them on social media and stuff as well, but email is probably the best way and easiest way. And I will get all those compiled, and hopefully by the time the year is out and we start the next year, I'll be able to reveal the bracket as a tease for March, which will come up faster than we know it. So.
As always, yeah.
So
the social media that Tad mentioned that you can also reach out to us on is Twitter. It's @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod for as long as it exists, I guess. We never know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Right, that dumpster fire.
Yes.
But we also have a Facebook. It's facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. And then our Instagram is Dark Tower Palaver. That's all one word with no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. It's tpublic.com/user/Dark Tower Palaver. That's the easiest and fastest way to find it. I did try to search just Dark Tower Palaver the other day. And
on what?
On TeePublic. And I down a rabbit hole I went.
Yeah, their search is not very good on TeePublic.
It's rough. That's why I wanted to specifically call it out, because I know we just recently in our Discord about a week and a half ago, we had someone asking about merch, and someone was showing off their new merch, which was awesome to see. But make sure to just type in tpublic.com/user/Dark Tower Palaver. And I just happened to look, and man, I'm so tempted to buy you this #Tad is terrible pillow. That just...
that would be
go so well with your
No,
office here.
No, that's called slander, sir. But yes, Carol, I saw you in the chat here, long-time listener, first-time emailer. I hope you actually got it. I did indeed. I just checked. I thought I saw it come through, but again, my memory is not to be trusted, so I just pulled it up while Peter was talking. And yes, got your email. Got a couple other people's emails. Haven't even opened them yet. I haven't even looked yet. I'm just gonna let them compile for a bit and whatever. But yes, that I'm excited to get that all prepped up for.
Max says in the chat, Twitter seems to have lost a few of its beams.
Yeah, no shit.
I think it's been infiltrated by North Central Positronics or Sombra or something that's getting a hold of it.
It's sad, too, because I like Twitter.
I know.
I've always liked Twitter. I mean, I felt like Twitter has been the one that's always allowed people to kind of like curate what they're actually seeing and not. Like, you can follow who you want to follow, because I mean Twitter can be a toxic place, but that's all about how you follow. Because I thought it was toxic until one time I really spent some time to like dig into who I was following, who I wasn't following. And also Twitter is the only place I know of on social media that lets you block words or phrases.
Oh, is it real? I never do that.
Yeah, so like when the whole Wall Street bet stuff was going on, like I blocked like GameStop, AMC, all those fucking things because I was just tired of seeing it. So, and yeah, as long as people don't type it in some weird way, it'll block it completely. So it's like, I've always liked it. I'm really sad to see things the way they're going because I don't know. I curated mine pretty well to the point where I always found it the least toxic, but I get where other people experience is different. But
I didn't know you could block like certain phrases. I wish I would have known that. There's so much stuff that I would have blocked all these years and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Carol says, "Hey Max, all hail the Crimson King." Apparently, he doesn't like his Twitter.
I want to see the making the sign of the evil eye hand signal in a movie or show, because that gets referred to in books, even in non-Dark Tower stuff. I want to see what the hell that looks like.
Yeah.
Because he never explains what that means.
Yeah.
But he says it in a way that it's like the sign of the cross that everyone would know. So it's just like,
he made the sigil of the evil eye, but you don't know what that actually like.
what does that look like?
Mean?
Like I picture it's like some like weird. I don't know. I want to see it because it's like it's something we've seen a number of times, and I'm
just
intrigued what that actually looks like.
Eye and just do evil. Like something like that.
Honestly, I love the Eye of the Crimson King. The only thing that throws me off from like buying more merchandise and stuff with it is there's that cable company that's logo looks very, very, very much like that.
Ugh.
And I'm like, I just don't want people to think I'm like supporting a cable company. Like, evil is one thing, but going so far as a cable company, that's
Tad has standards at least that far,
So I'll just stick with Randy Flagg stuff,
which is of course supporting the like most evil of all evils.
That's just superstitions.
No.
But yeah, thank you guys for all joining us. We'll go ahead and dive in now. The one thing I didn't do though is look where we left off. I mean, I know kind of where we're at here. We're in book the third book, which is The Wastelands, obviously. And inside The Wastelands, it was broken down into two books. The first book was called Jake. The second book is called Lud. The subtitle to it is A Heap of Broken Images. We are in Chapter 5, Bridge and City, subchapter 24. The only thing I didn't do, I guess, is get some kind of synopsis of where we left off. So,
Oy and Roland are on the trail of Gasher, who has taken Jake.
That's right.
Eddie and Susannah had a deadly confrontation with
Winston on his birthday.
A short person. They thought a child at first.
Yeah.
He had a grenade, and Susannah was the one that actually had to drop him
on his birthday.
And then others came charging out with melee weapons, is what you would say.
Yeah.
And everything. And they had to drop a few. Of course, Eddie, in the process of trying to draw his gun, had to drop his pants, which is just funny. I just realized this, too. I don't know if we talked about this on the last book club. What is with Eddie having to fight with no pants or up a tree or naked? I mean, let's be perfectly honest. At this point, it's not looking good for him in fights.
All I'm saying, sir, is don't kink shame. Apparently his kink is to be in deadly combat nude or in some stage of undress.
I mean, or in just weird situations. He was up a tree when the Shardik came.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. So that's kind of where we left off. It's kind of hard to tell because of these subchapters. These ones were kind of in that realm of Stephen King where each subchapter is jumping to a different, because we've split our teams up now. We've got three different splits. We got Jake that's with Gasher, which everyone loves Gasher, right, Peter?
Stop it.
And then we've got Roland and Oy following behind them, and then we've got Eddie and Susannah on their own. So we basically got three different things that we're kind of bouncing back and forth to, and that's where it gets kind of jarring when we take a couple weeks between book clubs, but before, or a month about, probably more so because it's a couple weeks between episodes. Then because you're bouncing around like that, it's like that seems so detached because we're not obviously starting off with Roland and Oy here where we left off. So, but
one thing I did forget with the synopsis is that Roland did come across two booby traps and was able to successfully navigate both of them, while tripping the second one, which let loose a huge fountain crashing to the earth and everything like that.
Yeah. Making
Jake think that Roland is dead. Gasher thinks Roland is dead and everything like that.
Jake thinks that Roland is now Gunslinger Jelly.
in regular and Oy flavored.
With a twist of Oy.
With a twist of Oy.
Oh, that's grim.
That's bad.
All right,
we're in a mood today. Oh, but that's what happens when you record back-to-back weekends,
Yeah, it is a little punchy here.
That's right. Let's get into it. I start off right with this one. So we start off with Eddie and Susannah. They reach the cradle, and right away, Suze notices it's very clean and there's no overgrowth of vegetation. There is water streaming down the sides from some like nozzles, and some even create little waterfalls on the steps that turn on and off. Eddie says that it's so massive it makes Grand Central look like a Greyhound station in buttfuck Nebraska. And let's just pause there and appreciate Eddie is ever the poet. Susannah even makes a comment on his wit. That's my boy, buttfuck Nebraska. Right off the bat, like as soon as like we have like a document and we're like trying to decide who's going to do which subchapter, and Tad sent it to me on Thursday or Friday.
Whatever it was.
Whichever it was. I took a look at it. I realized that was in the first subchapter, and I'm like, mine.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm doing.
Yeah, because we tend to alternate,
Yep.
so it's always the only question that ever comes up is who starts.
Who starts? And I saw buttfuck Nebraska, and I'm like, that's mine. I love it when Eddie does this kind of shit.
Oh, Eddie. My note on this is it's very strange in the midst of this ruined city that this one building stands pretty much unmolested by decay and vandalism. Like, it doesn't seem like
I
either
guess
things
that's one thing I didn't say is that it's like pristine.
Yeah, it's like not only because it just feels like in a city like this, like either shit's falling apart or it's been vandalized, and for it to have escaped both of those, that's interesting.
Or it's just dirty as hell. That's the other thing. Is like it's just dirty across the board. I mean, and overgrowth with vegetation. That just tells you how long. I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago when they first got into Lud. We were covering Eddie and Susannah after they split from Roland. Just how long does that actually really take to overgrow a city?
Yeah,
we're not talking like a little bit of grass growing in between the sidewalk cracks and weeds and stuff like that. We're talking about vines going up the entire skyscrapers.
Yeah,
and everything here.
The last part of the thing that blew me away a lot is it even says that the plains dust that is coating everything in this city was not coating the cradle.
Exactly.
So it's like, that's weird.
Yeah, and they have these automatic misters that are just cleaning it all the time.
Like those damn things in the produce section that'll get you when you're going in there to grab
happened to me a couple weeks ago when we were there, remember?
Yeah,
I went to go reach it, it came on, I was like, ah!
I remember the first time, our first job was at a little grocery store. I remember the first time I was over there trying to do something and that thing came on. It scared the shit out of me.
You know,
because I don't remember those when I was a kid. Like,
no.
I don't know.
I just remember one time when I was a kid, we went on a family vacation and we went to a grocery store. They had the misters and they had like thunder sounds. Like it was a thunderstorm, and I'm just like, what the? You put in like speakers to make thunderstorm sounds? Like, all right.
I would do that, but I'd have it like little demonic voices that were just whispering as you were buying produce.
Come play with us, Danny.
Yeah, exactly. Just something to screw and screw with kids and screw with people's heads, but especially kids, because
put them down.
Adults would just be like, "Oh God, these fucking people," but kids would be, "Oh my God, there's a monster in that." In the produce.
Put them down at the bottom of the produce stand so only like the kids really hear it.
Oh, some people would say I'm mean.
You are. Hashtag Ted is terrible. Torturing children.
Sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
I mean, hey. I always call back to Mr. Hitchcock that said, why is it that one of the first things most of us say to a baby is boo? Because we all like to scare children. So.
Yeah, sure. That's it. So despite there being no vegetation overgrowth with the cradle, they can't get a good look inside. There's these deep shadows caused by an overhanging roof. And we've all experienced that outside in the sun and everything like that. But you can't really see somewhere because it's like deep shadow.
Yeah. Caves seem to be that way.
It's true. You walk up to a cave and you can see every detail of the rock surrounding it. But as soon as you try to see 10 feet into that cave, you're just like,
it's just,
there's something back there.
It's like looking into the blackest soul.
Like yours. Yeah. Which I do on a daily basis whenever I see you. It's like, oh God, just look.
I just figured you'd appreciate, a cave in the wilderness.
No, not a fan of, because that's where beasts lie. No. So there's these totems of the beam all the way around this building, and they go 2 by 2, but the corners have dragons and with scaly bodies, claw-tipped hands, and nasty peering eyes. Susannah hopes to never meet them in the flesh. Eddie touches her shoulder and points higher, and when she looks, she sees a 60-foot-tall golden warrior who happens to have a revolver in one hand and an olive branch in the other, and it is Roland of Gilead. I just remember my jaw dropping open the first time I read this. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, definitely a strange thing to see.
Yeah. And one thing I did forget to write a note down on this. We have talked about this in our roundtables and everything. Hat watch for Roland.
Yeah. I thought about putting a note. Yeah.
The statue does have a hat blown back off of his head, but held on by like like the string and everything like that. So
that's going back a couple years that we talked about that.
That is going back, but there is a hat sighting.
But it's technically not Roland. That's the only reason I didn't put a note on there.
That is something that was pointed out to us, that it is not Roland. It is a statue. Well, we'll get there in a second. So I know you got some notes here with this one.
Yeah, so I just remember a feeling of a bit of fear at the darkness, keeping them from seeing in daylight. There's no obstructions. It's just like a bestial cave.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Is what I
Oh, yeah.
put there. That's just because that's really because like Red Dead. There's like a couple times you find some caves and it's just pure black, and it's like no
And
matter how bright it is, it's like you don't want to go in there.
I love that they do like the adjusting, like your eyes are adjusting, like as you're entering it. It's still hard to see, but when you turn around and look, you can still see outside pretty well. But then you turn back around, and now you can your eyes. It's like your
Yeah.
eyes adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not a fan of doing that in a place where they're talking about it being a place of death. If we remember the two people that are leading, that are actually with Eddie and Susannah here.
Yeah.
They're called Maud and Jeeves, are saying that it's a place of death, and then you get there, it's sparkly clean,
Yeah.
and you can't see inside it.
Yeah. It's just welcoming
Ominous.
you in.
It's just ominous.
just
is what
welcoming
that
you
is.
in.
No.
Carol says in the chat it's definitely a tangent kind of day. It probably sounds about right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's one of those
I don't know why I
days.
didn't know you'd be in this mood when you finally came over. I
yeah.
don't know. Just in one of those kind of
We're
moods
punchy.
myself. Yeah, exactly. And then Mike says maybe Blaine has a maintenance robot like Shardik. And I actually wondered that. Yeah, is there something automated wise that's keeping that building? Because that's beyond credibility, right? There's no way that would be a legitimate thing in a city that's in this kind of state that you'd have a building that's that kept up. So no, I think that's actually a legitimate point, Mike. Thank you. While we were talking earlier about that, I actually had that thought kind of enter my mind, and I kind of lost it. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would have completely missed. Came to my mind, but you were talking, so I'm like, hold on to that, and then I lost
And then
it.
it was gone.
So good call, Mike. Though I had
Yeah.
the same thought. Maybe there's something there that's keeping them clean. Like in these big cities now, you got these automated things that do the window cleaning and stuff. So it's just like if a zombie apocalypse happens, or as long as those things keep running, like you have clean windows.
Speaking of tangents, did you see the robot that delivers food in Japan?
No,
Did you see it get? So you haven't seen it?
no.
Dude, it gets creamed by a train. It's like, oh.
Oh man, I have to look that up.
I'm gonna have to find it for you.
I'm guessing since it's Japanese too, it's probably designed to be somewhat cute. And,
Oh yeah, it's a cute little thing. It's like
because
a
like
little.
American, it would just be utilitarian. It
Yeah.
would just look like a freaking mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
But with Japan, I just think they have like that pizzazz to their culture that it's like, no, let's make it kind of cute and like endearing.
Yeah.
You know, like look at our mail trucks, for God's sake. Like it would look like something like that if we built something like that.
It was just a cute little thing, and apparently they didn't make it to detect railroad tracks. And Blaine came along and smash. Worst part is that someone didn't get their food. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I think about that every time I see like a FedEx truck, got in an accident. I'm like, how many Amazon packages? Are people just like, where's my Amazon package? Okay, so the other thing is my note here. I remember the totems of the beams being a bit of a revelation for me here. I just feel like when Roland told us about them earlier, he told the quartet and us as the outside viewers there. It just felt like something that was maybe more of like a fairy tale or something that was told to children, or even something that's like maybe like a religion. I mean that in the sense of that it may not have a large place in society, right? Like there's things like that we have in our society.
One for Utah is the golden plates with the LDS religion.
Yeah, just there's all kinds of, and it's just they may have some place in society, like depending on what it is. But there's like, I mean, think of like all the Grimm's fairy tales and stuff. Most of us know those things. But are you ever going to see anything outside of like a children's classroom, generally speaking, that's really referring to those things?
Unless it's like a
Not
birthplace of like someone who was like in a movie with it, or one of the places where the story was set. You're
Yeah.
gonna see stuff like that, but not just in this world's equivalent of New York City.
Yeah.
Go downtown New York City, go into Central Park. You're not going to find The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast or
Little Red Riding Hood.
or Little Red Riding Hood
Yeah.
or The Three Pigs or any fairy tale like that. You're not just going to find them randomly like that.
Yeah, so like I said, or what I was saying, I guess I cut my own sentence off there, and I said that maybe they learned as children, but then they kind of faded with memory over time. But to see this, it changed it entirely, where now it's clearer to me as a reader at this moment that this is something far bigger. This is something that's like deeply rooted in their culture, to the point where there's like buildings on it and stuff like. And we already know, like Roland said, streets are built along the beams and stuff, but that might be more of like the nature of things. But still, the fact that you've got such a grand building that's got those things kind of built into it shows me that, okay, this isn't just the three bears. This is something a little bit more bigger to their society. I don't know.
Right,
So
exactly.
it was kind of
something that like actually runs their society and everything like that. Also, one of the things I didn't realize, I should have wrote this down, is that I always thought the beams were kind of an accident. Like how they describe it when Eddie and Susannah are being shown the beam for the first time. He's like, look down, look up, and then Eddie notices the birds.
Yeah.
Like when they come in, they like get buffered a little bit, and then they start following the beam, and then they cross again.
Yeah.
Through it. It's like there's like a jet stream there, so kind of thing. So it's like it's almost accidental that people built on it or animals follow it and stuff like that.
I thought it was more like magnetic. Like it's not, people aren't doing it on purpose necessarily. It's like a magnetic draw.
But here it's actually showing that it is on purpose. That the Great Road does go along a beam, that it is probably intentional because it's protected or something like that, or it's part of their society or their religion, like you said.
Yeah. I don't know, just kind of a revelation to me. Like I said, I always just took it as kind of a same as his little like saying for lighting the fire. It's just something you teach a child, and then that's it. So this was kind of a revelation for me on that. Now, my next note with the statue, the first thing to talk about that is I actually decided to go on Google and see what I can find in the statue that may be about 60 feet tall. And this is what I ended up finding. This is Damon Hirst's Demon with the Bowl. And it is a 60-foot statue, which that is 18 meters. And this is in Las Vegas in the middle of a pool. So that just kind of...
What is that, 4 stories high? Three?
I mean, it's 60 feet. I don't know.
Well, you can see two stories for sure.
Yeah, we've all seen like a swimming pool. You can kind of see the chairs around there. So you can kind of get a context of just how big a 60-foot statue would be, because I feel like it's easy just to breeze by something like that. And I looked all over the place. The only other one that was an option was there's in Minnesota, I think there's a Jolly Green Giant that's like 57 feet tall.
That's too close to Paul Bunyan.
I looked up Paul Bunyan actually.
I appreciate you not doing that.
No, it was just because one, it was a couple feet short, and two, I mean, look at this happy little demon here.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
It's wonderful.
No.
So yeah, that's a 60-foot statue for you, to give you context of what the statue of the Roland that they're seeing on the top of this whole apparatus here.
I'm gonna apologize for a second. I'm gonna close my camera. I got my contact falling out of my eye. I don't want to trigger some people who might be watching. So I'll be back in just a sec. Go on to your next note, though.
And it says, so now the crazy thing is the statue that they're seeing here of this gunslinger is gold. This is a city and a world that's in ruin. We saw in book 1 that gold is indeed as good as money here. It is valuable to them. It's not like something that for some reason we're in this magical world that gold means nothing. No, it's valuable. So the fact that this thing still stands in this post-civilization world says something about the Cradle as well. Whether it's that people are afraid of it, whether it's that people have a reverence for it, it's just something that's kind of interesting that, I don't know, the gold statue still exists. Catching up on the chat here, Robert said there's a new video out where a mini train in China delivers your school children right into your living room from under the floor. #tangents.
Wait, what? Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, folks.
Do you want to get your kid having a train that brings them up into the living room floor?
No.
Why not?
No.
Sounds fun. As long as it's pink.
That's terrifying. No, you actually make a really good point about the gold statue. With that is that we know that it's fear because of how they reacted when they said, hey, we're going to the Cradle and you're going to take us. And they're like, nah, better to be dead here.
Yeah.
So we know that it's fear. And let's be perfectly honest, 60 feet, even if that's just plated, that's a lot of gold.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that would literally be like you'd make that person like the richest thing.
You'd become the richest thing on the planet.
Yeah,
at that point,
in that realm,
at least in that, for sure in that city. But let's be honest, does it seem like Lud has exactly like a open market where
no, I mean
goods and services are being exchanged?
No, you probably have to take it out of there or something. But then Mike says nothing says a relaxing vacation like a 60-foot demon. I mean, the first thing I want to do after this episode is look up what hotel this is at. And next time I go to Vegas, I would probably at least try to stay at this hotel if it wasn't too ridiculously priced. Because, dude, a demon by the pool, that's awesome. Because you know what? There won't be a lot of children in that pool. And that's what one should be looking for in a vacation.
Of course,
child-free pool. Hey, I never even thought of it until I went to Mexico the first time, and they had an adult section, and there was its own swimming pool, and I was like, I've never understood before how much I hate children when it comes to swimming pools. They're loud, they're annoying, they splash, they scream. Like, to be in a pool with nothing but adults, it was like, this is actually relaxing. It's not like you're not like on edge, you know.
There's movie theaters that have talked about doing like adult only showings for movies and everything like that, where they don't allow kids under.
That's
15.
What's that one called in Texas? That really famous one.
The
Alamo Draft House.
Alamo Draft House.
I don't think
it's
they
adult
allow
because
kids.
it's like they serve alcohol and stuff.
Oh no,
like
it's
that too.
movies too. They're just like, I think I've even seen one of their marketing things were like, wait, you think we would like kick people out for using a cell phone, but then we're gonna let you bring your kid or baby into a theater? Like, what sense does that make?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you're all about that.
yes, indeed. And Mike says this demon is well endowed too. LOL. There's a pool to relax next to. I mean, I'm all about that pool. What about you, sir? When we go down for the It experience, which I think has been delayed now, because didn't they originally say November?
Yeah, like they said October for like
No,
Halloween.
it was originally it was November.
Oh.
So I looked it up just the other day because I'm like, okay, it's November now, and now it just says coming soon. So it's a little bit more. I think they're probably having trouble getting everything built. But still, when we go down there for that, because we will definitely do that, and it's Randyland, of course. We may have to go seek out this demon here.
Take a picture of the two of us standing in front of it.
I mean, the thing is, I couldn't find a good picture that like had people by it, because that was the other thing I was trying to find. But then again, I'm like, honestly, we've all seen swimming pools. I think we could all get an idea of what that size is there. So,
well, the nice thing is that it has a second level next to it, so you can tell. I mean, if everyone's been on a second floor, right? They know. I mean, we're on the second floor right now, so we can attest to how tall that is. So
the Paul Bunyan one too. That was, or not Paul Bunyan. I'm sorry, the Jolly Green Giant. I almost did that one, but again, it was a couple feet short, and there's just part of me. It's like, I don't want to put a 57-foot statue. That's not true to life. But then there also wasn't a lot of pictures of it with people nearby, because that was the other thing too. Is it's just like, it's hard to credit something like that when you don't have a lot of context to it. So
yeah, exactly.
But there's that. But we can go on. What do you got next here? The rest of this section here.
So next, right after that, Susannah realizes that it isn't exactly Roland. She realizes it just kind of looks like him. I forgot to write this down, but I was reading it right before I came over. Basically, it's like it's an ancestor, like it's someone he's descended from.
Yeah,
is what she kind of realizes. Thunder slams from the south and lightning flashes. There is a red strip painted across the pavement where the street of the turtle emptied into the cradle. Here is where Maud and the fellow Eddie calls Jeeves the butler, just Eddie being Eddie. They stop and they refuse to go any further. Susannah tells them to go ahead and scat. The guy says they will backshoot them. Maud says there's never been a backshooting gunslinger ever. He questions if they really are gunslingers and that they just have their word at it. And Maud just points to the big revolvers and doesn't say anything. They take each other's hand and give Eddie and Susannah a warning to stay out of the cradle. Eddie says they have no choice and tries to warn them that the drums are from a song. They don't listen, of course. Susannah says to go, as talk between us is no good. The words only drop dead. Maud and Jeeves leave, holding hands, looking like something out of a fairy tale.
Yeah.
So third or fourth time fairy tales have come up already.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, indeed. One other bit I wanted to highlight here, and this is a direct quote here, and it says, "No, she thought at last, remembering to breathe again. It's not him, but in another way, it is. That man was a gunslinger, and the resemblance between him, who's probably been dead 1,000 years or more, and Roland is all the truth of Quartet you'll ever need to know." And I just felt like that was just a really cool line. Just the way that's written is just cool, because it's Quartet is still something that we're learning about in this part in the series.
We're starting to get a little bit of
Roland's explained us a little bit there, but I don't think that we've necessarily got the full breadth of it or Caw at this point. So I just thought that, and I just think that's beautifully written too. So I was actually surprised reading through, because sometimes Kindle has like the sections that are like frequently highlighted by people, and those are usually like some of the best lines. I was surprised this one didn't.
Oh, really?
Because I just thought this is written so well. I'm like, I'm surprised that's not a oft highlighted line. And I just love the line. I feel like it's like a short line. It gives us a world building by building a link from ancient history to Roland that we are seeing here and now. It just felt like, I mean, what is that, a sentence or two? And it just feels like a lot of world building packed in there.
Is.
So I love that, because it's brevity, but it's also giving me the shit I really love, and that's world building.
Yeah,
so.
and King does this so well throughout the series already, is that it's one or two lines here or there that get thrown into the mix, and you're just like, whoa, like, we can't just gloss over this, but we still do. This is
Yeah.
what he does, is he shows us these little things.
Yeah.
And it just builds so much, just fills in. Like, you have these 2 points, you know, and then it's just that 30% in between, it gets filled in just from this one line. You're like, oh, okay, that's what Kotet's all about.
Yeah. And then also, I wanted to point out, Suze wants to study the statues longer, as each animal has inscriptions on them, and that she thought that might be knowledge worth having. This shit gives me anxiety a bit, and it's also why I'm kind of a slow video game player, because I am very thorough. Because for me, there's nothing worse than getting beyond something that you can't get back to that you realize you need. So, like, I am very systematic when I play video games and stuff, where I'm like, you know, like, I'll sweep through things to make sure there's no small thing. Like, I don't just run through shit, you know.
Yeah.
And exactly for this kind of reason. So the fact that, like, Susannah's doing this, like, if it were me, man, I'd be like, I gotta see what these inscriptions are. But obviously they can't. But still, it gives me anxiety, because I'm just like, read it.
Read it. I need to know.
You need to know. I need to know.
Hey,
like,
mister, I got to know.
yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want to end up in a freaking, 40, 50 pages from now realizing that some horrible thing's happening because you didn't read the fucking inscriptions. Like,
Yep.
that's the way my brain works a little bit.
Please
so.
remove shoes. If you don't, we'll kill you.
Yeah,
That kind of
exactly.
thing.
Exactly. But yeah, what are your notes here?
I love and hate when this happens in film, TV, books, and stuff like that, because it makes so much sense for them to just listen. I'm talking about Maud and Jeeves. They won't listen, is what I mean. If you would just listen to these two, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They could go back to the people who are literally murdering each other over a portion of a song.
Yeah.
But really, why would they? I mean, imagine right now, Tad, if someone appeared to us and said, hey, you got to stop doing a podcast. You're killing millions of life forms in another galaxy. We'd be like, dude, are you high? Like what's wrong with you? You know, kind of thing. That's exactly it. And they're outsiders. They don't know anything about what's going on in Lud, and that's the conversation that they're having. And they're just like, if we don't do this, like, zombies are going to come up and eat us. And it just makes you realize how, like, the real world.
Yeah.
We've had that in this world.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, yeah, we have to burn her. She's a witch. If we don't, she'll kill us all.
I mean, I don't know if it's actually a real story, but I know, like, the story I've always heard with, like, saying God bless you and you're sneezing, it's because it's like your soul escaping or something. Like,
oh,
and that's
really?
the shit you hear as a kid, and it's just like, I don't know if that's actually, like, apocryphal or not, but it's like shit like that. But still, to this day, there's people that have no inkling of religion in them at all. I mean, they're not saying God bless you anymore, but they're still saying, it's a strange thing to say, but we're so ingrained in us that we're, like, hardwired to do it and say it now. I don't know.
No, yeah, I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. Carol says, in my head, canon, because Roland has been on so many cycles and Ty moves funny, it is Roland. I need the short story from King because not all statues are good exact image. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember as I'm reading this, I'm like, yeah, they're saying this is ancient, but I'm like, still Roland, come on. Like,
it made both of them stop in their tracks.
Yeah,
I mean, like, come on.
It's just, to me, I'm just like, come on now. Like, yeah, I don't know. And
It's one of those ones when you're watching a movie, you're like, all right, are we getting into, like, alternate realities and multiverses and everything like that? It's just where you just have to stop and question what's actually going on here.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so, let me just ask you this question. Is it ever good when you meet locals in a story and they won't go somewhere that you have to go?
I mean, I don't know about good.
I mean, like, it never seems like a good thing happens after that. It's like, all right, come on, guide, and, like, lead me into this temple to go get the little statue. And he's like, no, death is in there.
Yeah.
And then Indiana Jones is like, pah. And what happens? People die.
Too bad Maud didn't say I have a bad feeling about this.
That's Star Wars, not Indiana Jones, but same thing. But I think, like, this would be, like, a great scene on the big screen or little screen.
Yeah.
Something like King Kong flicks where the locals refuse to go into the lair, or like the sacrifice area. It's like, no, you can't go in there. Stuff like that. It's just like that tension building and stuff like that. Also because, like, imagine if it's just like nothing happens.
Yeah.
Which actually is what happens. After Maud and Jeeves are gone, Eddie just says to let him out of there because he's just like losing his mind. And Suze agrees. Eddie kisses her, and when she asks what that was about, he says that it's because he loves her and that she's the best thing that ever happened to him. And he gets really, really emotional here with this. He goes on to say that he started to love her because she reminded him of everything Roland took away from him, bringing him to this place, talking about Midworld, but it has grown beyond that now, and he never wants to go back. She says she doesn't either, that she wants to spend the rest of her life going forward. She talks about how she loves him because he freed her from both Detta and Odetta, not freed from just Detta. I thought that was kind of interesting and wanted to call that out, that it's freed her from both of those. And I think she even calls them bitches in the actual book. They embrace again and they move forward, and nothing happens as they enter the cradle. So that's what I was just alluding to, is that all this big hoopla, like, no, you can't go in there, it's death, and they cross that.
Nothing happens to Indy right away either.
That's true. They cross that red line and oh, okay.
Because it's one of those things, right? Like, let's just say there was like a spot that there was immediate death.
Yeah.
If you're the one that's going to paint that line, don't you just go a little bit out just to give a buffer?
Just a little bit,
yeah.
you know?
Because that way, if like some kid's playing around and accidentally goes past the red line, they're not immediately zapped or killed or whatever it might have, whatever it is. It just feels like they're give a little buffer.
Yeah, exactly. Such a tender moment in all of this horror that has happened so far. I mean, when you look back at everything that has happened since the beach when Susannah joined them, you have Shardik, you have the river crossing and seeing the mutants and what happened to this world.
Jake's drawing.
Yeah. You have the bridge and everyone almost falling.
Yeah.
Including Oy, that poor bumbler, getting saved by
See, I see you
Jake.
trying to spin this here.
This is the truth, sir. It's actually what happened, not your slanderous way of saying it. You're not going to say it. Jake getting kidnapped by Gasher, Roland and Oy disappearing to go after him and everything. I mean, they don't even know what happened to Oy.
Yeah, no.
They just know that he took off. So for all they know, Oy is dead.
Yeah.
And everything. And then just for them, the two of them just to embrace and then cross that red line.
Yeah. Yeah, he could be Oy Stew by now by some pube.
Oh, wow. You really
man.
are a monster.
I live for those reactions, man. The fact that 20 years later I could still get a rise out of you like that. You think you just be a husk of a person by now.
I won't let it happen. I won't let you win.
Oh,
what do you got?
So I look at the sentences where she's about to tell him that about being pregnant, because that's the other thing she about tells him right here, and then decides that this is not the right time. Because earlier you were talking about just like or was it last episode or that you were kind of talking about kind of being fearful of what might be ahead for Eddie. Like there was something that you said about like their relationship where you're just like, I was kind of worried as we were going into this section, like whatever. For me, I think I said I didn't really have that. But
I think it's later in one of these subchapters is actually where I have a note about it.
You mentioned it last time too.
Is it?
Yeah,
I've been scared for Eddie for a couple.
You just felt like as we were coming up to this because obviously we're getting toward the end of the book. You could see that as you're holding the book in your hand.
Yeah.
And then there was just some things because you mentioned last time you were just getting scared that something would happen, and you specifically said Eddie because I remember asking like, why did you think it would be Eddie? Like, could be Susannah or whatever. But for me, I didn't share those concerns. But this is the point where I did. But I would have more so if she had actually told him about the pregnancy.
That's
the
where
fact that she didn't. I'm like, okay, taking that from like 100% fear for him, I'll draw that down to like 60% because she didn't tell him. Yeah. But if she had told him. Like,
you're just setting the character up.
Yeah, he's
right?
done for at that point. Like once she tells, I'm pregnant. Like, a bullet's probably gonna come through and just freaking take him right in the heart at that exact moment. Just, that's the way things work, right?
Exactly.
Whenever you have those, like either it's a tender moment telling that you're so far from retirement, or you have some kind of big truth revealed to you, you're fucking dead. Like,
it's like one of those things. Yeah,
it's just gonna happen.
Exactly.
Next, my next note, I love that Sue's saying that she was set free from both of those bitches. I think as a reader, we might not look at Odetta as a negative, but she says that she was a self-righteous, pompous prig.
Yeah.
So I love that because, I don't think that most of us have really sat on that long enough to think maybe how Susannah views Odetta. I think we all know how she views Detta, but I don't think any of us, I don't know that I won't speak for anyone else, but for me, I'd never at all thought that Odetta was a negative at all until this time when I was reading it. So
there was parts in the drawing of the three that we both got frustrated, even in our book clubs like that. It's just like her ability to put her hands over her ears and go, la, 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 I'm not hearing you kind of thing.
Yeah.
We both just kind of wanted to grab her and just like, hey, listen.
I mean, there's that, but
that's not enough to be like Odetta. I was terrified of Odetta.
Odetta.
I mean, Detta,
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't scared of Odetta. I was terrified
I
of
love
Odetta.
Odetta though, man.
But the first time you're reading it?
Yeah.
you
Oh
know?
no, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've grown to love her over time, man. Detta is a badass. So, but no, I love that because that's just kind of a cool highlight. That like, yeah, the first time reading, I never interpreted Odetta as a negative presence at all in her life. So for her then to see it as a negative and say both those bitches, and then to describe her as self-righteous, pompous prig, like that's like, okay, yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from. I can see because there's some times she looked down on Eddie, even Odetta did. You know,
especially
with some stuff where it's like kind of raise her nose at him type of thing. There was that self-righteous, pompous prig that she like. She says it in the perfect way there. It makes sense, but
it is.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have grasped it. I don't think if King would have actually given it to us here.
Like,
in this way,
he lays it out absolutely where it's like, they were both bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one.
Yeah.
They were both bad for her.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely interesting.
Robert says, I hear you, Tad. I look under every stairwell and check every waterfall.
Oh, for video games. Yeah, dude, you have to, man.
Yep.
Like, I was just in a very bleak place in Red Dead, and I was like sweeping around because it's like I knew it was one of those ones that once you leave it, you're never able to get back in. So I'm like, I was
comb it. Fine-tooth comb.
Exactly, because I'm like, the last thing I want to do is find out that there was some small freaking thing that that happened to me in those Batman games. I ended up getting when you're in the blimps or something. There's some of the blimps you get into that you don't get back into later on. But I wasn't doing the Riddler trophies at that point, so then later I couldn't 100% the game, and I ended up just turning it off, and I haven't played it since because whatever. I'm just like, dude, that's stupid.
Which one?
Which I think I talked to you about it when it happened. I'm like, dude, I've got like 3 left, and and you're like, yeah, dude, you can't get back in there when you got to get them when you're in the story mode for it. You can get into some, but not everything. So there was some, and I ended up Googling it too, and it's just like, yeah, they're unreachable if you don't get them when you're actually. So yeah, I hate that shit. So I'm with you, Robert, dude. I'm like, if people watch, that's why I couldn't be a streamer, because if people watch me, they'd be like, dude, what the fuck's taking this guy so long?
Come on,
like,
dude, pitter patter.
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's like, I've got to make sure I don't forget it or miss anything. Unless I know the game. Like, if it's Halo, I'm rushing
roll through that.
Yeah, exactly.
2 more things from the chat that the second one's really interesting. This first one's good too. David adds to our thing, the same thing happens when characters take a group photo. Someone's dying. If you take a group photo, someone's dead in that photo. Like, that's like a guarantee. You're right, David.
Somebody gets a phone call. His wife tells him she's pregnant. He's like, God, I'm one day from retirement. Let's all take a group photo.
Oh, well, let's remember this. And it's just like, that poor man. Final Destination is just over here just cracking its knuckles going, all right.
Yeah, pretty much.
The other one is Max points out, interesting that Susannah credits Eddie with that. It was actually Roland that forced them to confront themselves.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually.
Yeah. It is Roland, like, absolutely. He's
I think
the one
Eddie helped her through a lot, like emotionally afterwards and stuff. Likely,
well, Eddie had to take care of her as well as take care of Roland. Roland was sick that whole time.
Yeah,
but the actual like turning the head, look at this, kind of thing, that was Roland.
Yeah.
So
yeah, never.
That is interesting. Oh, I like that. But that's all I have for subchapter 24. You didn't have any more notes on that one, right?
No, that's it.
All right, so subchapter 25 is yours.
Let's move over to subchapter 25. So now we're back over with our good friend Gasher.
Yeah, gross.
Once they were in the sewer, Gasher slowed the suicidal pace that he had maintained above ground, but Jake didn't think that it was because of indecision of where he was going. It was because Gasher seemed to know every twist and turn. Instead, he was slowing because he was convinced that Roland was jelly. Jake only wondered if Roland spotted the earlier tripwire, and he...
Roland flavored jelly with a twist of Oy. Oh boy!
What is it? Mid-world Cottet jelly. Just call it that. Jake only wondered if Roland had spotted the earlier tripwire. Would he really miss the more obvious fountain? Maybe, but not likely. More likely, Roland tripped it on purpose. But Jake had no hope that Roland would be able to track them down in here because of the darkness. But it did cheer him up that Roland did not die trying to fulfill his promise. They took many turns, and Jake's senses were sharpening with the lack of vision due to the darkness. There were muffled sounds of ancient machinery coming in and out as they move. Gasher guides Jake to with taps on the shoulder like one might lead an ox.
Oh, just such a disgraceful way to lead someone. It's like smack.
You know what's funny is as I was reading this for this week, as I was prepping for this episode, all this Gasher stuff, I thought of you. In terms of like how you're reacting, I just picture you like getting pissed as you're reading this. So Maybe it's because I know you or whatever, but I did. There was times I started laughing because I'm like, Peter's like fuming right now because of this sentence. Like,
you should see me when I listen to this when I'm like riding in my car. I'm like, oh, my steering wheel. I'm like trying to break it and just like, so mad.
Yeah,
I hate Gasher so much.
And then my note here: Jake is pretty sharp to piece all this together. Not that I view him as dumb necessarily, but he is a kid and pretty good at thinking for a kid that has not really been trained by Roland at this point. I think we got to make sure we think about the timeline of this here. Jake's just been pulled through. He's had a little bit of time, but he's
maybe
not
a month or so about walking with them.
Yeah,
if that
exactly. And he's 12 years old.
Yeah.
So like we got to credit all that to realize like to piece all that together. Like props to you, Jake.
Yeah.
And then my next note here is it's pretty sad to see Jake not valuing himself or his own life. He has given up hope that Roland will be able to find him. And he is only happy that he in figuring that Roland isn't dead because he didn't want Roland to die for his promise. Like so basically he didn't want Roland to die for him. And I just think that's a bummer. So
I know that, and that's what my note here is simply just, oh, dude, poor Jake.
Yeah,
like enough is enough with this poor kid. Like he's to the point. He's so accepting of his fate right here.
Yeah,
that he's like, well, maybe Roland survived. I'm not gonna, but at least he did.
Yeah,
that's just for a kid.
Yeah,
this kid should be in elementary school or junior high at the best. Yeah. And he's thinking like this.
Yeah.
And also, on your point, he is really sharp.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I bring it up later.
And he has no reason to be
smart,
right? Like he's not like I feel like there's like maybe a sharpness if you have to grow up in an area. Maybe you have to look over your shoulder a little bit more. Like someone that's in like a prep school like him versus a kid like Eddie that would have grown up latchkey kid in a rougher part of town. I feel like Eddie would have been probably would have had to have been a sharper kid because you're either sharp or you pay for it.
Yeah,
whereas
it's street smarts kind of thing.
Yeah, and Jake has no reason to have that, so he doesn't even have that. So it's just it's interesting that Jake has that. It says something about his character because I don't think it's like inherent in his past. It's something that he has despite his past. So yeah, big credit to him there. And then Gasher begins to sing. And it's let's see, ribble tea tibble tea ting ting ting. I'll get a job and buy you're a ring. When I get my mitts on your jiggly tits. Ribble tea tibble tea ting ting ting. Oh, ribble tea tibble. I just wanna wander fiddle around with your ting ting ting.
I want you to redo that, and I want you to sing.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Oh no, come on.
I don't even sing at karaoke bars.
That's true.
So
this is true,
and there's alcohol in me at that point.
This is true. I've seen this.
Yes. So no, that's not going to happen. But I had to give some credit to his Mr. Gasher singing here. It looks like you have a note on it.
Call
as well.
him Mister. That's just stop it. What I can never imagine is Gasher singing with a, quote, surprisingly tuneful tenor voice, end quote. I can't do that. He has to sound like an out-of-tune pirate like on a Disney Pirates of the Caribbean ride. That is what I picture. I don't care about the audiobook. I don't care about King's description. He sounds like shit. He has to sound like shit. This vile piece of human garbage cannot have a good voice. It's just not allowed. I won't allow it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're wrong, sir. Then there are 5 or 6 more verses along this line before he stopped. He then demanded Jake sing something. Jake said he didn't know anything, and Gasher brings his elbow down on Jake's back, almost sending him sprawling. And I think that was one of those times I paused and just thought about you. And tells me better get knowing something. He says that there are haunts living down here, living in the machines, and singing keeps them away. Jake thinks hard, not wanting to be hit again. And then Jake ends up singing a little bit here.
All right.
So it's my girl's a corker. She's a New Yorker. I'll buy her everything to keep her in style. She's got a pair of hips, just like 2 battleships. Oh boy, that's how my money goes. My girl's a dilly. She comes from Philly. I buy her everything to keep her in style. She's got a pair of eyes just like 2 pizza pies. Oh boy, that's how. And then he gets cut off there. So, in a previous book, we discussed the absolute terrifying idea of the ability of machines to be haunted in this world. I think Roland threw that out to us at some earlier point, and it was like, I think we both kind of like shuddered at that thought. But here we are again now, coming back around to that, as Gasher believes that singing is the only thing to keep these haunts away, which is a fucking terrifying idea.
Yeah.
Like, because let's be honest, does he seem like a singing type?
No.
So the fact that he's doing it, like, he believes this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not just doing this to torment Jake. He's not like singing as like to be all like,
Right.
like, high over Jake of like, oh, I've caught you. I've got you. You have no chance. I'm singing to like dance on your grave. No, it's not. He's singing because he believes that there's demons or ghosts or whatever, and that's just fucking terrifying.
It is. And my note is machines being haunted is a serious problem. Drums, anyone? Like, the drums, the reason why I put this line here is I wanted to explain it. I didn't want to have you like have an inkling of what I was going to say. Is that we get ideas from hints from Gasher that he knows that the drums are fake. He says that, where's those goddamn drums? So and so should have pushed them already and started them. Those on the surface will believe anything.
Yeah.
I forget. Is it the pubes on the surface?
Pubes, yeah.
The pubes on the surface will believe anything. Those idiots, those kind of.
Yeah.
He kind of talks down on them.
Yeah.
But then we get here, and he is singing to keep the demons from the machines here away from him and Jake.
Yeah.
That's when shit got real.
Exactly.
Is when someone is like, don't step on a crack, you'll step on your mother's back.
Yeah,
that's such malarkey. But then all of a sudden they go, don't walk under a ladder, it's bad luck.
Yeah,
when they start believing.
Yeah, when the cynic appears superstitious.
That's the way to put it.
Yes.
When they start believing, that's when you go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But I think it's also, what's terrifying about it, I don't think it's all that common throughout horror history to have like haunted machines or computers, you could say, but like it's never haunted. It's always just like an evil computer, AI, whatever.
Yeah, AI becomes self-aware kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
but
Skynet.
it's not really haunted. But like I think you and I, when we talked about it after we had this discussion last time off air, we had a discussion. We ended up finding that Carrie is probably about the only one that we could really think of that was like a haunted machine. And Christine, I'm sorry, and that's fucking terrifying. Like you watch Christine, like that is fucking horrifying.
Imagine
like,
trying to survive a car that's trying to kill you.
Yeah, I mean,
like just think about that for a second. Like we did our hangout with Maximum Overdrive and everything like that. That is actually kind of a scary scenario. If every single car on this planet right now became sentient and decided you humans are going down, we're going to kill every last one of you, dude, we'd go extinct.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
We might be able to take a few of them with us. We might be able to nuke a couple places.
I'd probably get killed by, just kind of like autopiloting and walking outside to go to work one day and not kind of forgetting and then just getting crushed by a car.
I mean, just think about it. I mean, like right now where we are in the second story of a house.
Yeah.
We feel safe. We're
Yeah.
protected from the outside. There's a window. There's no way that an animal can get us. There's no way that a predator can get us.
Yeah.
A semi could absolutely ruin our lives right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we've seen that. Well, it just happened a couple days ago in downtown. A truck ran through a beauty salon.
Yeah.
Just a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Went through the side of the building.
I mean, it wasn't haunted. But.
Was it? I mean, makes you wonder, doesn't it?
But yeah, no, it's not a common thing in horror. So I think that makes it even more terrifying because it's just like, oh, vampires or zombies. Like there's just certain things you can just kind of like take kind of in passing. But it's like, yeah, haunted machines. There's just something about that gives me the creeps.
Mike says Gasher may not be wrong. Christine, the Mangler, the Mangler, the Overlook, all are created by Cy King. Apparently, he has a thing for haunted machines.
Yeah, but see, houses I don't give credit to because that's pretty common, And I like again, it's scary certainly, but it's something about. I guess you also have Maximum Overdrive too.
Dutch Hill Monster is kind of haunted house.
Yeah, haunted house, but I think that's separate from like machines because machines. There's just something about that because like. We don't credit machines with any kind of like people don't have a machine that they name and stuff. I don't think we give the same kind of like credence to machines that we do with like I don't know. We just put them on a different level. So the idea of them being haunted, it gives them sentience as well. That's pretty scary. I couldn't help but wonder with this idea coming back up now how this might apply to Blaine. I remember as I was reading this the first time, I just remember thinking that like. Wait a minute. You already talked about haunted machines once. Like, why is this coming back up now as we're getting right close to Blaine?
As Jake gets there.
Yeah.
Like, Jake's getting into the belly of the beast kind of thing as well. It's like, we have Susannah and Eddie heading towards Blaine in the cradle, but also Jake and Roland are descending into machinery is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, King what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing to these characters? Stop it. Especially Jake. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Hashtag leave Jake alone.
Leave Jake alone. Oh man, we'll have to do a video like that. Leave Brittany alone, guy. Have you do it.
Yes.
Leave Jake alone. So then moving on here, then Gasher grabs Jake by the ears and pulls him to a stop and tells him that there's a hole right ahead of him. And with his singing voice, it would do the world a mercy to let him fall into it, but TikTok would not approve, so he is safe for a bit longer. Again, just I think of you as I'm reading this. Just he then lets go of the ear and grabs the shirt, Jake's shirt, and tells him to lean forward until he feels the ladder on the other side and not to slip, or they will both go down. Jake is terrified.
Wait. I think I misread that when I was doing my research yesterday and today. The ladder's on the other side of the hole?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that noise.
So he's holding him as he's like leaning over the precipice and grabbing the ladder. Yeah.
No. No.
Yeah, that's something else. Jake is terrified of the pit in front of him and that he can't see. He gets the ladder and the bite marks on his hand break open again. So that's fun.
Jake.
And that's a pretty dirty area to have open wounds. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Plus Gasher's right there. Gasher tells him to climb down. Jake climbs down, trying to use the wounded hand as little as possible because, again, he was viciously attacked by a billy bumbler on a bridge. Let's not forget where those hand wounds came from, right, Peter? You didn't react there as quickly as I thought you might.
I was reading the chat. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. The sound of large machinery grew louder as they descended deeper. There's to your point.
Yep.
At the bottom, there was a square shaft that went straight in both directions as far as Jake could see. Which I guess I if it's a square, I don't see it as a shaft. It's a hall to me. A hall.
Yeah.
That's how I would interpret it.
A shaft is round.
Yeah, to me. He knew instinctively that even though they were 70 feet under the city, that this tunnel followed the path of the beam. He could not have said why, but he was sure that somewhere ahead, Blaine was directly above. There were rose-colored light tubes that ran along the ceiling of the tunnel, and some were out, but Jake marveled that they were neon tube lights. Kind of like we've been marveling. There's some of the stuff where it's just like, this doesn't fit in Roland's world.
No.
And that's kind of another one of those things. I don't think that I maybe find it as impressive as 1977 Living Jake might, but still. Gasher gets to the bottom and tells him that it's cool in the summer and warm in the winter, and there's so much food that 500 people couldn't eat it all in 500 years, and that the pubes had no idea about it and thought that only monsters lived down here. And Jake reflected on that and thought, indeed, there are monsters that live down here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sure.
Good on Jake there. To a good little dig there, even though it's internal. And my note here, man, the idea of being in a place so dark that being told that there's a hole in front of you is just terrifying. I just feel like there's a ball of lead in my stomach when I read that, because it's just like, I mean, darkness, right? But it's just
like I read your note about being in a dark place and having a hole, being told that there's a hole in front of you.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now, if someone took me down into a cave and
I wouldn't move.
And they're like, okay, just to let everyone know, go ahead and everyone just stop. And like you're with a tour group, and they're like, oh, by the way, just so you know, in this room with us right now, off to your left is a deep cavern. It's about 500 feet deep. You will die if you slip off that edge. It is kind of slippery, so just try not to go over there. All right, search and rescue. I ain't moving from this fucking spot.
Yeah. Or I'm hugging the wall on the other side.
It reminds me kind of like The Outsider with like the caves and stuff like that. Like, if someone's going to tell me like, yep, drop over there. Nope. I can't see shit. I'm not moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, nope. I'm not doing it.
100% agree.
But then also to add on to it, like I said, I read your note and I understood exactly what you're talking about. But then to be told, okay, it's a drop, but you have to reach across and grab the ladder to descend down.
Yeah.
Fuck you. No. Like, I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of heights. I'm not scared of like stuff like, like falling as much, but I'm aware of it. I'm aware of what's going to happen if I fall.
Yeah.
And that's one of those instances where I don't want to risk that. And to trust him holding the back of my shirt.
Yeah.
Oh man, Jake's a more trusting lad than I am.
Yeah. Nothing will make your heart race a little bit quicker than hearing some cloth tearing as you're being held over.
Oh gosh. That's the worst. I just had two notes here real fast about kind of like the technology and the things that Gasher said here. They have enough food for 500 people to live 500 years. I actually read that wrong. It's 500 people couldn't eat it all in 500 years.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about surviving for 500 years. We're talking about splurging
Gorging
for 500 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of food, dude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's
a long time for it to be good.
yeah, that's plenty for the whole city worth of people probably.
Let's talk about that right now. How long do you think the longest food lasts right now that humans make?
I mean, this isn't our world.
I know,
though.
but let's just, for the sake of arguing, 10 years? Some of those survival MRE stuff.
I was
like
gonna say like spam. Probably no. MREs are beyond that.
Are they?
Yeah, I think there's people that still will eat like MREs from like Korea and stuff.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, it's hardly food, sir.
That's true.
So I
It's
mean,
just-
spam. I mean,
yeah.
that's probably got quite a bit of shelf life to it there. Yeah, I don't know, quite a bit. But then you always have things like honey that don't ever spoil.
That's true. It doesn't, but it also doesn't have very much nutritional value. Delicious.
Yes.
However, I'm not slandering honey. Don't come at me about the honey. The second note I had here. Let's also talk about the technology to sustain keeping somewhere warm or cold, despite all the years that has passed, if there's no humans there
Yeah.
to maintain it.
Like I've been in buildings that you can't keep the goddamn heating and air conditioning running correctly just for a week, let
I
alone
know.
hundreds of years potentially.
So just think about that technology real fast, because I put a note here. If humans were gone, did you ever see that show? I only saw one episode of it. It's like they took a look at different parts of the world and what would happen if all human life just poof disappeared
Vanished.
off the
Oh
face
yeah,
of
yeah.
the earth.
It was on History Channel. I watched
Yeah.
the whole thing. It was pretty incredible.
There was one. I saw the one for New York City. So, Lud, let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Power went out in 3 days, something like
something
that.
like that.
But the board in Times Square that was up at the time was solar powered, and would have lasted for I think it said 1,200 years or something like that, as long as nothing, a hurricane didn't hurl a house into it or something,
Yeah.
something like that. So it just makes you marvel with how much time has passed, how dilapidated. I mean, we're talking a bridge fell.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this. Keeping somewhere warm and cold. So they have the technology to keep that going. Makes you wonder how long that bridge took to fall down again.
Yeah.
I mean, but we do have the river crossing people setting a time for us.
Yeah.
That this is 100 years, 200 years tops.
Yeah. I think it was within a generation or two.
Exactly.
So-
So let's call it 150 years. Let's split the difference. Man, that's some good technology.
Oh yeah.
That's some robust technology to be able to keep a place up and running, doing sophisticated things like heating and cooling.
Yeah.
That's not exactly an easy thing to do. Like you just mentioned, I mean,
Yeah.
our work had air conditioning go out this summer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the 21st century here. We should have
Yeah.
that perfected, right?
Exactly.
But we don't.
See, I just at work what I want. We don't have that big of a building, but I just
Yeah.
want us to get one of those aircraft hangar coolers.
Mm.
One that's going to keep like a building 10 times the size of our place. Just get one of those, put it on there, and have it to where everyone has to wear coats 24 or all year.
You complain about how cold it is all the time.
That's the way to do it, man. Then there's no nonsense involved. Also, just a complete tangent, but that show you're talking about. Do you know trivia wise what the longest thing that humans have built that will last?
oh, like mechanical, like something's going to keep working.
Not even working, just like kind of whatever. Like the last thing they mentioned on that show was like something that would give, and like the distance it was from like that zero moment of humans disappearing. It was the Hoover Dam. They said 20,000 years
before it
would break down.
Wow.
And it's like, dude, can you imagine 20,000 years? Just, I mean, it's a giant piece of fucking concrete.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be functional. It wouldn't be like creating electricity necessarily.
But that's- I mean, it's
the
a dam.
would stand
Yeah.
for 20,000 years is what their estimation was. I was like, Jesus.
Damn.
Yeah, it's like, good God. It makes sense. It's a big piece of fucking concrete.
It is.
So, not a
giant.
lot to that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, total tangent, but yeah. So great job here to add villainy to the Greys with the idea that they have it's so good down there while the surface is what it is. So feels like a good mustache twirling moment here.
Yeah.
So Gasher shoves Jake to get moving again. They jog on for a while with the echoes of their footsteps chasing them, is how King puts it, which is that's a fun thought.
I hate that. That's the
Because that's what happens is then what happens is you stop running and the
you think
footsteps keep coming.
because you think you hear someone behind you, so you're like, what?
No, not even that. Where you just like Gasher and Jake stop, but but then the footsteps behind their echoing just keep going.
Ugh. I hate it.
After about a quarter of an hour, which I love, he uses quarter of an hour because we don't use that. We use half hour. We don't use quarter of an hour very often. Usually quarter two is about, but the one we never use is 3/4. Never use that.
No, because it's 1/4.
Because Dirty Harry does that. And ever since I watched that movie, I was that's stuck in my head. I'm like, why do we never say that? But it says after about a quarter of an hour of this, Jake saw a watertight hatch a few hundred yards ahead with a communicator box on the wall next to it. Gasher pushed a button and says that he's got him, and says he did not even mess up his hair. Which that's again, I thought of you there because I'm like I could just picture you yelling at your book. Bullshit, you didn't. And told him to open the door. The door does not open, and he is asked for the password. He frowns and wipes a clot of yellow-green goo from under his eye patch. That's a fun. that's a fun one. I had to keep that part in there because that's just
yucky. As our buddy Hayden would say.
Yeah, he says that if TikTok can't recognize his voice and he needs hearing aids, the voice says that he recognizes his voice, but he doesn't know who was there with him because the camera died last year. He either gives the password or rots out there. After some more disgusting Gasher shit, he pulls the paper out and says Hoots takes care of him. He then tells Jake to read what's on the paper because he has forgotten the password. Jake asks what if he doesn't, and Gasher is taken aback and tells him that he will use his skull as a door knocker until his brains are on the door's wheel. Jake reads the password, which is bountiful, and Gasher takes the paper back and gives the password to the speaker box. The door begins to open. Gasher throws Jake into the strangest room that he had ever seen in his life.
That's the end of the subchapter.
That's the end of the subchapter. Which that's a perfect Kingian way to end a subchapter.
Right? Yeah,
like the what is it? The strangest room he'd ever seen in his life. He's already been in a couple rooms that we've seen him be in that are pretty.
I mean,
strange.
one came alive and tried to eat him. Yeah, so let's
took his pants off for God's sake.
I know, right?
Who's been pants by a house? Come on,
Jake has. The kid's been through a lot. The audacity of Gasher to say that to TikTok that he didn't hurt Jake, and he says, "quote didn't even muss his hair." Liar!
I didn't even see your note there. Again, I thought of you. I'm like, Peter would be so pissed at this. I just pictured you being indignant. Like,
I am indignant. That lion's sack of shit made him bleed like 5 times, beats him upside the head, treats him like an ox, smacking him to get him to turn and everything.
Grabbing
like
him by
that.
the ears to stop
Grabbing him by the ears and everything like that. Messing up his hair, pulling his hair. Oh, I hate him. Your turn. I can't.
The water/airtight doors are interesting, but it just feels right for some reason. Like when they showed up, like it was kind of one of those things where it's like it's not necessarily what you'd expect in a place like this, but at the same time, something about it just felt right. It just felt like if it had been something else, I probably wouldn't have like felt right with it. Mm-hmm. Like if it were just a normal door with like the whole slider thing and what's the password? Like
password.
It would. Even though that probably makes more logical sense, it just wouldn't have felt right. And I'm saying this from the first time I read it. I remember thinking like, oh, that's kind of a weird door, but it makes total fucking sense. And I probably would hate it if it were anything else.
Yeah, and I threw a note in here. It's kind of like the door you see in like a presidential bunker, like a safe house kind of thing. Yeah,
because it would be like
government
airtight,
officials for that.
Airtight for gas attacks,
aerial bombardments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a heavy door and everything, but also in case if there's ever flooding. They are 70 feet down and everything like that. So if there is flooding, water goes down, finds the lowest point and everything.
Yeah.
So it would want to be, like you said, airtight for gas attacks, watertight for flooding just in case.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see that, but you're right. Also the technology here.
Yeah.
And intercom's working.
Yeah, the intercom, but also the fact that they mentions a camera, it seems so bizarre in this world because that's another advancement of technology beyond what we've seen so far.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Because also even Jake's from a time, I mean, think about Scarface.
Yeah.
That takes place in the 80s. So that's 10 years beyond what Jake's seen. And Tony Montana has all that counter surveillance stuff in his house. Yep. But remember what that shit looked like, and also understand that Tony Montana would have been a millionaire and that would have been dumping a lot of money into this shit. And that's like stuff that very few people would have had. So what is that 10 years earlier? Like Jake, the idea of a camera on a door for Jake would have been completely alien.
Why?
I don't think Jake would even comprehend that was possible. Yeah. For him, cameras is like the big thing that someone holds to shoot a television show or something.
Like they don't even have shoulder mounted ones. They have to be like mounted and they have to wheel them.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like you think about like
Whereas Eddie, I think if you said like a security camera, Eddie could probably have processed it a little bit
Yeah.
more because again, Tony Montana, he
You have,
probably
like-
saw Scarface for God's sake.
yeah, you have like the news cameras that they're able to do, but like shooting a movie and stuff like that. I mean, think about it. Like I think about the making of Halloween, where they have track down.
Yeah.
And they have to pull the camera back, and then one of the actors like kind of trips on it, and the shot's kept in the movie. But that's what they have to do with like movie cameras. They have
Yeah.
to put them on tracks.
Yeah, because they're huge.
and they're massive.
They're the size of like what is that? Is it a smart car?
Yeah,
It's the size of a smart car.
I found out that I can pick those up.
Yeah.
I tried. I embarrassed the hell out of my wife. I went over and I picked it up, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I was curious if I could pick it up."
It's just a toy.
It is.
But yeah, no, it just so I found that interesting because one, again, we're just getting multiple levels of like weird technology that you don't think should be in this world from what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And I think this is almost one of the most advanced ones that we've seen up to this point. And again, it's also fun because the whole timeline thing, which I always love that as a sci-fi fan, that yeah, Jake would not, and Susannah, my God, if she had heard that,
Yeah.
camera on the door.
Right.
So very interesting there. Jake sees that Gasher is not afraid of death, but is afraid of being humiliated. Great ability to read that from the situation for a preteen kid from our version of, or from a version of our world. So, again, just that's beyond a lot of adults I know to be able to read someone well enough to understand like that distinction.
Yeah,
So,
like
props
what
to
they
Jake.
what they fear, and that's what my note is. Jake really is so smart. But after all he's been through, it's kind of no surprise. He's kind of had to, and when I say he's been through all that he's been through, let's be perfectly honest. That probably stems not from anything that's happened in Midworld.
No,
That ability to read people like that, what he's afraid
that could be
of,
his
and stuff
dad,
like that,
actually.
That's exactly what
Yeah,
I was thinking.
His dad is kind of, we got to sense his dad was hot-tempered and shit. So
Yeah.
Jake would have to kind of evolve that
he would have
ability to know,
that sense.
yeah, is this a time to like fuck with my dad or not?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I have to have bad news, like I feel like Jake's the one that he'd be able to understand like his dad's personality
People
to
have-
understand when to say it and when not to.
Yeah, people who have come out of abusive relationships or been raised by abusive parents have talked about being able to gauge. As soon as my dad walked in the door, I'd be able to tell if he had a good day or a bad day, and if it was the day to go hide in my room or if it was the day to stay out there and talk to him and see how he's doing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying here is like this. I don't think this ability to read Gasher here, I don't think this comes from Midworld.
No.
I think this comes from his upbringing and how his mom and his dad are. I mean,
Yeah.
he probably walked into a room, took one look at his mom, and knew how many pills she took.
Yeah. He
I mean,
did. I mean, we saw.
Oh,
it.
did he
We
really?
saw
He
that.
did, didn't
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
so
saw that.
I thought that was interesting to point out that reading someone's emotions like that is probably a Earth Jake trait, not a something that Jake picked up in Midworld.
Yeah. In the chat, Mike said plant obsolescence says 10 years max for anything. Back to our conversation about what lasts after humans disappear.
Oh.
David says, I would imagine it's because we use digital clocks more than analog clocks. Missed what the context was for that. Sorry, I lost track of the chat for a second.
I
but-
did too. I'm sorry.
yeah. We get all caught up in these conversations.
Tangents.
And tangents galore. This
That should be
episode.
our next shirt, is a tangent shirt.
Yeah. That or Team Flag.
No, stop that.
To counter your
Flag doesn't deserve a shirt. If anyone deserves a shirt, it's Rhea or Oy, because they were the best and the worst.
No, we all know that Flag is the best,
No,
sir.
stop it.
Yeah, Team Flag 2024.
Yeah.
That's the t-shirt we should get.
David says why we don't use 3/4.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's even when I mean, growing up we had more clocks than digital, and I feel like I've never really heard that phrase used a whole lot. Like I said,
It's
when
because they were a quarter to 5 instead of
yeah.
3/4 of.
Because I remember
4.
when I watched Dirty Harry the first time, and the sergeant's like, "What have you been doing?" He's like, "Well, I just spent the last 3/4 of an hour waiting out in your freaking office for you to call me in here." And I'm just like, 3/4 of an hour, like makes sense, but I've never heard that before.
You haven't? Oh, I've heard
No,
that. I've heard
always
people
heard
say
quarter
that.
or half, but I've never heard
Yeah.
3/4. No, never heard
Yeah,
that
that's how
before.
you say 45 minutes.
I've only heard quarter to or 45. After I've heard that even 45 after more. Yeah, I don't know. But
Well,
all right,
but someone saying how long they've been waiting. It makes sense.
yeah, just 45 minutes would have
Yeah.
been. Yeah, so
I
I
get
don't
it.
know.
I
Just
get it.
strange. Never heard it before then. So definitely strange. It's one of those weird, quirky things about our language where it's weird the things we do and don't say. But all right, moving over to subchapter 26.
This is a really short one.
very
here.
short, yeah.
Roland descends with Oy in his shirt, and he's worried that the bumbler would have lost Jake's scent in the water, but but he had heard Gasher and Jake singing, so they're that close.
Yeah.
They hear a door slam shut. Roland takes a look around and removes the leash from Oy. He whispers in Oy's ear, they're close and they need to be quiet. Very quiet. Oy responds, "Aye it." Yet they set off again, and Oy is muttering under his breath, "Ache, ache, ache."
Oy.
That's my boy. I love Oy so much. His "aye it" for quiet and muttering under his breath, "Ache, ache." Such a smart boy. Such a good boy. He's the best.
Vicious beast.
No, he's not. Stop it. I'm going to throw something at you one of these days when you slander Oy like that. Do you have anything good to throw at you?
Oh, man. So my note here is I love that Roland has his doubts that Oy is able to track him through the water and stuff, because I think that's completely legitimate for any concern.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, bloodhounds and stuff had a hard time with water and stuff. That was usually a thing. I mean, that was a freaking thing you'd see in shows and stuff where, like, criminals would be trying to escape, and if they got through water, it's like, oh, shit, well, you know, you're kind of in a colder trail at that point. And it is only when he hears the singing that it heartens him to know that they are still going in the right way. Like, it's kind of like oh, cool, Oy is still, he hasn't lost it. I thought maybe he had. Like, it's just kind of I don't know, it's weird. It's weird to see Roland kind of getting a boost in morale.
Needing a confirmation almost. Like, he always just been like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. It's going to be this.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's it for this subchapter, though.
That's a little short one. But subchapter 27 is a little bit longer.
Yeah, it is. It is. And this will be the last one that we'll have for this episode. So,
but we are still going to have our spoiler discussion, so don't take off after this one.
Yeah, definitely. So then, starting off here in subchapter 27, Eddie and Suze are looking at the cradle as the rain begins to come down in sheets. So much they need to shout to be heard over the rain when they're talking to each other.
When's the last time you were in a rainstorm that bad?
I was even just trying to think, when's the last time? When do you see that in movies that you've got a rainstorm that torrential?
Where they have to like scream at each other?
Yeah, like I'm thinking Jurassic Park when that hurricane's coming in. I feel like maybe, but
I remember Jumanji always because of the line that they yell. Well, I guess a little rain never hurt anybody. Yeah, but a lot can kill you. We need to get to higher ground.
I need to watch that again. I don't remember much about it.
The CG is so bad.
Oh, it's bad.
It's bad.
I caught a YouTube video of like the stampede, and I was like, my God, man,
it's so bad.
It's bad. They just need to do the George Lucas and remaster the animals, and then that's
just leave it alone.
Yeah, leave it alone. Eddie says that it's a nice building, but they forgot the handicap ramp. Suze says forget about that. We need to get out of the rain. Eddie asks that if she is sure, and she says that she says, "Race, you white boy," and begins to wriggle up the stairs with an uncanny ease, and she almost beat Eddie to the top, but he also had the chair to deal with.
Big monstrosity.
Yeah, despite everything going on, they both get a bit hot under the collar when he picks her up, but after realizing the time was not right for relations, he finally puts her down in the chair, and they both feel regret for it. And now I'm just going to pause real quick, because I don't know if I took a note of this. If they had done the dirty there, guaranteed one of them dies. That would have been the ultimate coup de grace.
You do have a note here about that.
I couldn't remember if I put that note down, but like
I just glanced down at the notes, and there is one. It's the your third note in this section that you just cover it now. It's right there.
It's like if they had sex on this scene, it would have been 100% in your mindset that one of them was going to die, most likely Eddie, in the next bit of the book. The fact that they almost did made me start to wonder. It started to turn the dial up for me a little bit. As they moved into the cradle, the city is fading in the gray of the torrential downpour. So again, coming down so heavy that it's basically blocking your view outside.
Yep.
Again, we talked about the whole cave, going into the dark cave, then you can look out, you can always see the light. But what if it's so torrentially downpouring that all you see is a gray sheet in front of the freaking thing? It makes it a little bit fun and terrifying.
There's a movie where someone hides in like a cave and there's rain, and you can see like the shape outside looking for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just got goosebumps thinking about that. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Was that a beast by chance?
Yes.
Okay. That's
moving on.
Good to know. Good to know. They see some of the statues designed to use a bunch of the rainwater. They're like fish that like the water kind of drains down and shoots out of their mouth. And then they realize that this is not just a passing storm, but this is a big storm that might last days or weeks or months. And I think we actually skipped a line earlier on that mentioned that they wouldn't have known it, but this is the beginning of the autumn storms, was the line that was given. So
It said the great autumn storms. It even has the word great in front of it.
Yeah. So Suze tells Eddie to fire a shot for Roland, and then they can start looking around. Eddie fires the shot and tells him that Roland, then the book actually tells us that Roland heard it a mile or more away as he followed Gasher and Jake through the maze. Eddie tries to reassure himself that, but he cannot shake the feeling that they have seen Roland and Jake for the last time. So Eddie's getting a little bit, and see, maybe that adds to your paranoia that Eddie might be going out because, if he's starting to wonder that he'll ever see Jake or Roland again, like that could be that Jake and Roland don't make it back, but it also could mean that he dies here. So just to get in your paranoia reading it the first time, probably.
Right. And Carol says, we're all just waiting for everyone to die. Oh, the thrills of a first-time reader. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember clenching my book so hard during parts of this section during Lud and just being like, ah.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I have a note about it later on in this subchapter, so I'll wait until we get there.
Yeah. My first note, I wonder what this rain does to all those bodies hanging all over the city.
And I made a note, yucky. I imagine it's like some of those stories from World War II in the Pacific. There's some horror stories about stuff that happened with bodies. I mean, they had bodies that were...
Yeah, they had like is it typhoons, the word, in the Pacific? Where you get like just like it's a hurricane in the Pacific, essentially. It's typhoon. Like, you have all that. So yeah, there would have been countless times that you would have just had this kind of freaking, because this feels.
But there's also the accounts of like Marines on different islands, not just one particular one, but on different islands where they were stationed there and they were there for 40 days and it rained 39 of them.
Yeah.
At some point for 39 straight days, it would rain at some point.
Yeah.
How do you dry yourself out of that?
Yeah.
And here we're talking about a storm that could potentially last months.
Yeah.
A single storm. I mean, do you remember the longest storm front that moved through Utah over us? I mean, we both have said it. We're both from Utah. We both lived here our whole lives.
I remember there was like maybe 5 to 7 years ago, there was like a month period that it rained like high 20s.
I remember that.
Because you know what, the funny thing that always strikes me is my aunt that lives in Seattle or near Seattle.
Yeah.
That same exact month, they had almost no rain.
Yeah.
So it's like we flipped.
Yeah, which is weird because Seattle's one of the wettest places in the United States.
I remember like her on social media complaining that they weren't getting any rain. I'm like, I think we've got it all. And it was like by the end of it, it's like, dude, it rained almost the entire month.
I remember
it wasn't
that.
one storm, but
no, it wasn't one continuous storm, but it kind of felt that way.
Yeah,
because it was like what we were just talking about with World War II is that
we're a desert here, though.
We are. That's the thing. It's
we're
like
not
we
an
don't.
island.
We don't experience that like other people have.
We're not on the ocean. We're not an island. Like we're not around. Like this is we're in a desert for God's sake.
Yeah.
So like we're
not Buffalo getting lake effect.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get some lake effect a little bit off the Great Salt Lake. Is so much of it that still exists.
But it's only parts of the valley that get hit by lake effect. I found that out just a couple of weeks ago. That there's only certain parts of this of the Salt Lake Valley that get hit by the lake effect from the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah, because the mountains block it.
Yeah, the mountains all block it, and I'm just like, I didn't realize that. I always thought that I was affected by lake effect, but we get missed.
Yeah.
So it's like interesting like that. I did love Suze's line about the storm. Quote, "It's gonna rain until it gets tired of it, and then it's gonna rain some more just for spite."
Sounds about right.
I don't know why, but I really liked that line. Carol says, rain for 39 days straight. That's lightweight. Welcome to Seattle. When I was younger, climate change is having an effect now, but it was nonstop when I was younger. And see, that's that's one of the reasons why Seattle, they say people get depressed up there is because it's always gloomy and always rainy. There is not a lot of sunshine.
And see, for us, it's like we get rain so little generally that when we get it, it's like a treat because it's like,
we're so happy.
Yeah, it's like we get snow in the winter. It's totally different, but in the sun, when it's warm and it's not snow, like 1 or 2 storms a year if you're lucky. That's a wet year to have 1 or 2 storms a year. But
I should keep track from March 1st to November 1st next year. Just how many days have precipitation when I'm outside.
Yeah,
you know,
this year was actually kind of wet. We had a number of storms this last couple months, but it's not normal.
When I'm going to and from work, when I'm going to and from your house, or when I'm doing stuff with my family or doing stuff, you know, I'm going to keep track of that. Just see how many wet days I
Yeah,
experience.
it's not many.
Yeah.
So my next note, the funny thing is, of the New York gunslingers, Eddie would be the only one with a wider knowledge of handicap ramps. They existed in earlier times, but they weren't very prevalent. In the late 80s and the early 90s is when they really got more prevalent, as it was in the mid 90s or early 90s, or somewhere in there. I think it was around 94 or so, if I remember right, that the U.S. law mandated handicap accessibility stuff. So Eddie would have been the absolute closest to that, and Susannah obviously the furthest from it. Again, not that there wasn't stuff that looking back, I think they've found Greek stuff that has had built ramps for people that maybe weren't able to walk as well. They had canes and stuff. So it's not like it's a new thing, but the prevalence being high would have been a newer thing. So I think that's kind of interesting, and it sucks for her that she's the furthest from that, and she's the one that has to deal with it in the New York world.
Yeah. Max says rain is the law in Scotland. Oh, that's right. Max is from Scotland. I forgot about that. That's a rainy place.
Yeah.
Carol says, yep, I have a client from Arizona. I'm a therapist, and he gave up after only 2 years here and moved back because the depression was so bad. Yeah. That's the thing I've heard is people are like, you're not going to like it if you live up there. Like, it's raining like all the time, and I'm just like, I grew up in a desert, man. This is like the shit I live for, man. Yeah. It rains. I've literally woken my wife up when it's a thunderstorm outside. We work the next day. I've woken her up and been like, it's raining. And she's like, oh, thanks for waking me up. And she's like you. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Don't wake me up. I will, you will feel my vengeance. Yes. So then that was my note. If they'd had sex, it would have been a certain death sentence there. And is that a horror? Right? Is that a horror movie thing? Maybe not that it's not only in horror movies, but it's heavier in horror movies. And this is a Stephen King book, for God's sake. So maybe holding off here saved one of their lives potentially. Because if it's a horror movie,
we hope so.
Yeah, it's like if it's a horror movie, like, God, don't do that.
Don't do it.
Yeah, like it's just like if you found like a joint laying on the side of the road, don't pick it up because it's a horror movie. You'll end up dead. So I love the gunshot here because it's timing us up with Roland the Maze, which was a few subchapters back. I always love when a non-congruent timelines do something to help you line them up, whether it be a book or a movie or television. I love that shit. I don't know why. It's just one of those small storytelling things that I really appreciate. Because, this would have been back three episodes ago that we heard Roland hear the gunshot and he knew that the Deans had made it to the cradle.
I really love when they line them up with also people who are like sneaking around or like time travel or something like that. Like there is a one in Harry Potter where it's time travel and it's like clear that some things are happening. You're like, what the hell is going on? And then you realize, oh, it's people who have traveled back in time later on. It's just like, oh, that's kind of cool to realize that's what that was, kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
I had a question. When we're following Roland, when exactly did we hear the shot? Is it at the fountain? Do you remember?
I thought it was earlier than that, I thought.
Is it the trip wires? The X wires?
I think in there somewhere. I don't remember exactly where.
Okay. I knew it was.
We heard it because then Roland kind of smiles a little bit and it's like, okay, they're where they need to be.
But that was a while ago.
That was a bit ago.
Roland's side.
Yeah. So that just shows that the timelines are not lined up here, which is a good thing to know. So as we go on here, they go into the building. Eddie is pushing the chair, and Suze is reloading Roland's gun. The storm is greatly muffled by the sound of the storm is greatly muffled by this building. Both the rain and the thunder sounds distant, which tells you something about the density of that building.
The acoustics of it, because it's not inside the building. They're in a pavilion area.
Yeah. They hear birds in the great heights of the cradle, and they see signs. And I actually have a screen grab of it here, and it basically tells us southwest travel is Blaine and northwest is Patricia, and it's on the screen if you guys want to see just a screen grab of what it shows there. Eddie is, and it's also showing arrows. It's kind of like what you'd see in an airport.
This way for Terminal 1, this way for Terminal 2.
Yeah. Eddie said now they know the other name, but they got the colors wrong. Blue is for boys, pink is for girls. Sue says maybe they're both blue, and Eddie gives no credit to this and says with certainty that no, Blaine is pink. Susannah asks how he knows, and he says he doesn't know, but he does. They enter the grand concourse. Eddie does not have the ability to see the past like Suze does, but his imagination fills this place with thousands of people as well as hearing announcements. And it all eventually fades to the sound of birds. Eddie shivers. Susannah points out at creepy faces high on the wall. They seem to be pushing out of the marble. They are stern men with harsh executioner's faces that enjoy their jobs. Some of them have crumbled over time. Eddie says that they must have been the Supreme Court or something, because only judges can look so smart and pissed off at the same time. Susannah says, a heap of broken images where the sun beats and the dead trees give no shelter. Eddie gets goosebumps across pretty much his whole body and asks what that is. She says it's a poem by someone who must have seen Lud in their dreams.
Jeez.
So there's our subtitle for the book 2.
Yeah.
Blood is a heap of broken images. So that's fun. So I guess New Yorkers can't escape pigeons even when they go to other worlds, because it does. I've only said birds here, but it does actually call them out as pigeons.
Yeah.
So apparently New Yorkers, they can't escape them, even crossing different fucking realities into different worlds.
Exactly.
Other worlds than these.
Yeah, that's true. I have a note. I said it's kind of interesting in this incredibly clean place that it allows pigeons, a notoriously dirty bird. I thought that was kind of interesting that
Yeah.
they're, bird shit and everything like that.
Yeah, it mentions out on some of the statue faces and stuff. In terms of there's some bird shit and stuff. Yeah, honestly, it doesn't matter how hard you try, sir. Pigeons will,
they're gonna roost.
as Ian Malcolm says, they will find a way.
Life finds a way.
I love that King gave the filling of this concourse to Eddie as part of his imagination instead of to Susannah with her abilities to see things from the past. Just because I feel like it's a thing that's happened to me a time or two in my life, where my imagination just paints a pretty wide, broad picture. So it's relatable to me. Versus Susannah, we've already seen her ability a couple times in this book now. So then to give it to Eddie, where it's just pure imagination, I do appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. I've been in a couple things in life where it was just like, yeah, you almost start to you're in an abandoned something. In my case, it was a child's hospital.
Ugh, no.
It was.
I'm so glad I didn't go.
It was. Yeah, that was a spooky place, man. But yeah, I don't know. And again, it was imagination, but then that gets to you too, because you're like, all the stories are it's haunted. And it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it was finally torn down, right?
Yeah. But
thank goodness. You'd probably try to make me go now.
oh yeah, that'd be fun.
I'd do it, but
Yeah. And then also the line that Suze quotes here is, of course, from T.S. Eliot's poem "The Wastelands," which is where the Wasteland, which is where this book. It's also the subtitle of this book, "The Blood," of this novel, and of course the novel got the name inspired from the T.S. Eliot poem. So, kind of a cool little throw in here. Yeah. So we got that, and then moving ahead here, it says ahead there's a vast barrier, and beyond it they get their first glimpses of Blaine the Mono at last. It was pink, as Eddie said that it would be. Blaine was a streamlined bullet-shaped train that looked more like flesh than metal. Its surface was only broken by a window with a large wiper. Eddie knew that there would be one on the other side, looking like eyes, and the wipers would look like eyelids. Eddie wondered aloud if it is dead, and Susannah says it is not dead but sleeping. Eddie asks that if she is sure, and she asks if he was sure it would be pink. She says that it is asleep and that she is afraid to wake it up. Eddie says that they can wait for the others to get here, and she says no, they need to be ready because they will probably come running. They move to an intercom box. The gate bars that are there are so tight that it would have been a tight squeeze for Oy, so there's no chance for them to sneak through in any way to circumvent things. Eddie realizes that he is terrified, and the last time that he was this scared was when he and Henry were looking at the Dutch Hill Mansion when he was a child. He remembers that he swore he would never go back to that place, but here he was in another haunted house, and there was the haunter, Blaine the Mono, a dangerous animal that was shamming sleep, which is an interesting thing to say there. Because you see that with beasts, they just pretend that they're asleep. Lions and tigers do that a lot. They'll just pretend to be asleep. Eddie remembers the story of Artis, who was killed by blue fire when he could not answer what was asked of him. Eddie thinks that if he hears Blaine speak, he might go crazy. Eddie senses that they are being watched. And is that just the funnest?
That's the worst.
The funnest thing in the world?
You've had that feeling before,
yeah.
right?
It's because it's usually not that big a deal because you're in a public place. Oh, yeah, somebody's
You look
whatever.
around and you see the person who's looking at you.
If you're out in the middle of the woods and you get that feeling, that's
it's a beast.
Yeah, it's a mountain lion or something. Suze wants closer to the box. Eddie agrees, but says not to touch it because it might be electrified. Suze says that if Blaine wanted to cook them, they would be cooked. So
That's a happy thought.
yeah.
Mike says, not to muddy the water on the train color on the trains, but Blaine is a gender-neutral name from Gaelic and Scottish origins meaning yellow. Bright and bubbly Blaine is angelicized? I can't really see that word.
Yeah.
It's on the far side of my screen. Version of the old Irish word blay, which translates to yellow.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've never heard that before.
I didn't know that it was.
I mean, I've actually seen Blaine as a female name.
Oh yeah.
It's not the most common, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
It's not a boy named Sue.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So that's interesting. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for that. Yeah, that is. I never would have known that before.
Yeah.
So it seems like a big moment to finally see Blaine. The whole book, nearly 80% of the way through now, according to Kindle. We have been hearing references, allusions, dreams, and stories about him, and now here he finally is.
Yep. And
So.
I remember the first time reading about Blaine. It was up late at night. I used to read before going to bed in like high school, and that's when I got introduced to the Dark Tower and everything with you. I hate the machine looking like it has a face. I hate that aspect of it. Like I hate when trains have faces. I hate when cars, like they put the eyelashes on cars over the headlights. I hate that.
What about the Green Goblin mask on the front of the truck?
Fucking hate it. I hate it. It's not as bad with the Green Goblin mask because that's a fake mask put over a truck, kind of.
But
thing.
it does have some malice to it once you start watching
it
that.
does have some malice to it, but what is worse is when a car looks like it has a face without having something attached to it. Like here, the windows look like eyes.
Yeah.
And the wipers look like eyelashes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's the normal stuff that makes a train, but it looks like it has like a face.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I'm not. It unsettled me so much that I had to stop reading for a second. I remember going upstairs, like putting my book down, going upstairs, getting a snack. And we're talking like I should be in bed. Like it's midnight or 1. And I'm like, I'd rather risk getting in trouble with my parents for still being up and raiding the kitchen than to read this book right now.
Yeah. That's great.
But I couldn't
love
stop until I found out what happened to Jake.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that poor kid. You gotta see him through it, sir. Whatever end it might be. Let's see. Yeah. So my next note here, Sue says that Roland and Jake will come in a run. Is not a happy thought, but once she said it, it seemed totally right to me.
Right? They're in a city where everything and everyone wants to kill them.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to come in a run.
Like when Eddie's like, oh, maybe we should just wait for them. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then she's like, no, they'll come running. I'm like, no, yeah, she's probably right.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like my mind immediately changed. So I'm like, yeah, no, she's
Yep.
she's probably right.
Valid. Let's go with her idea.
Let's listen to her.
Yep.
I think it's brilliant for King to have tied Blaine to the Dutch Hill mansion with Eddie in Eddie's mind, because he did such a great job of building the dread of that house, and we would eventually find that that fear of that house was justified. So to tie it to this train is to make us readers fear it that much more, because Dutch Hill was not just some house, so likely this will not just be some plain old boring train. I just brilliant storytelling to me.
Right.
Like just to tie those two things together. If you're Stephen King, you've done a masterful fucking job building to. I mean, we were all on the edge of our seats when Jake starts to walk into that house.
Oh yeah.
So it's because King did such a good job to build that house up for what it was.
Oh yeah.
And so then just to pair that here with this, like everything we've heard about Blaine now, to add that Dutch Hill,
we've seen it before in movies and film and stories, and also in real life. Man, this is bad. This is reminding me like that time that we had to storm Iwo Jima. Like things like that, like real world ones. But also in movies, there's like
Hannibal Lecter. The first 10 minutes of Silence of the Lambs is literally hyping him up.
Yeah.
Until he shows up.
Yep.
Literally, if you watch that movie, you get the introduction that Buffalo Bill's a serial killer, but beyond that, everything else in that first bit of that movie is hyping up Hannibal Lecter to that moment she walks across that to where she could see him, and that's where it kind of like takes the wind out of you. She's like, wait, this doesn't look like the monster they've been building him up to be this whole time. But they did. They spent like 10 fucking minutes of that movie making you think that this is.
But you're tying it also to Buffalo Bill, who's the wanted one now.
Yeah.
So tying it to something like that is what. Oh, it's just so bad, and everything. And they do it all the time to build
Yeah.
something up. It's like, hey, remember from John Wick does it. Like,
Yeah.
like when you see John Wick get scared of something,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and he's like, wait, this is going to happen? You're just like, I gotta brace myself.
You know,
kind of
one of my favorite things, you don't see it a lot, but it's usually natural disaster stuff. When you see a giant flock of birds that like changes course.
And it's like,
it goes the other direction because it's just like, what would cause that? Like that's not going to be a good thing. Like whatever it is.
or like Jurassic Park when you see the Gallimimus.
Yeah, and they start.
Look at that. It's like a flock of birds avoiding a
Yeah.
predator. It's like, what's the predator, dude?
Yeah, you should probably run or hide. And then my last note here: is there any worse feeling than the feeling of being watched when there's no way that someone can actually be looking at you? I assume this is some primitive evolutionary stuff like sensing a predator, but it just never ceases to be scary, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you're in the woods, you're like, you're alone in the house, and you feel like you're being watched. Mm-hmm. You know, because isn't that the ultimate, like one of those things? You move into a new house, or you're in a new house, and there's no curtains yet, so that like it's pitch black out the window, but you know you could be seen. Just that's
The other one is
fun
when
times.
you hear something. I had it happen to me a couple recordings ago. I'd gotten home. My wife and daughter were out with her side of the family, had come up for a visit, and they were out. And I decided to take a shower while they were gone and everything like that. And man, I swear to God, I heard my front door open. I swear I heard it open. I'm like, babe, is that you?
waiting to hear some pitter patter. Oh, you called out who's there?
I
huh?
called out, like expecting to hear her.
I thought I taught you better than that,
And
sir.
then I'm like, dude, I'm in the shower. Like, I just called. If I die, it's totally on
Yeah,
me. Like,
exactly.
I deserve this.
you should know better.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I've educated you for 20 fucking years. How many horror movies?
You're
now?
like actually disappointed in me right now,
Yeah,
aren't you?
Come on, man. You may as well say I'll be right back and smoke a goddamn joint for God's sake.
After having sex.
Good Lord. Is there someone there?
Hashtag Ted has a copy of your keys. No, he does not. No.
Imagine if I did.
Nope.
Imagine
Nope.
if I did.
Nope.
That would
That's-
be, that,
nope.
that would be something.
Nope.
So the box looks like an intercom with a burglar alarm tied to it. The speaker is on the top half with the button next to it. Below were numbers arranged in a diamond shape, and of course I have a screenshot of that. Unfortunately, it's an image, not actual text in the book, so when I couldn't change it to black background and white text to be a little bit easier on the eyes, so forgive the bright white picture. Under the diamond were two buttons with the high speech words command and enter on them. Suze thinks it looks like something from a sci-fi movie. Eddie realizes that it must look that way coming from 1964 versus his 1987. Now I will say there it does actually say 63, but I changed it to 64 because 63 would be a mistake because she came months after Kennedy's assassination. We see her or for one of the first times we see her. So I think King, it's just one of those easy things to mess up. But yeah,
a little bit.
64 is where she would have come from. Early 64, I'll grant you. But versus in his 1987, he thinks that they have never talked much about the differences of their two times. He wondered what she would think to learn that Ronald Reagan was president in his time. He answers it in a. It is a security system, and then even though he doesn't want to hit the he didn't want to, he hit the talk listen button. There was no response, and he wondered if Blaine was dead, but he didn't believe it. He said hello into the hello into it, and imagined artists screaming as he was being electrocuted, and his eyes melted, and his hair caught on fire. So that's a fun image to have. There's of course the lightning teeth too.
Stop it.
You know that would have happened.
You stop
I know that's what you're looking for. He pushes it again and says, Blaine? Questioningly, no answer. Eddie then gets dangerous giddiness, a lunatic impatience. And it says if Roland saw him in this state, he would have not merely thought that there was a resemblance between Eddie and Cuthbert, but that Eddie was Cuthbert. He then pushes the button again and begins to joking in a bad British accent. Suze is shocked like a devout woman whose husband has just blasphemed and told him to stop. He continues on as he is yammering on. There is a shh, and he looks down at Suze because but then he realizes that it had not been her who shushed him. Now, isn't that a fun thing?
Oh no.
Having another voice there when he's just like, yeah, it's like you hear someone like, hey, look, your daughter, did you say something? No. Let's see.
I've had moments like that too, where you hear you think you hear a door deeper in the house close, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, Ted must be back there. And then I look over and you're sitting next to me, and I go, get. Like,
yeah, it's definitely one of my all-time favorites, though, was in high school. Lived in like a condo. Everyone lived upstairs except for me. I'm the only one that was downstairs. Downstairs is me, the kitchen, the living room, whatever.
Sure.
And the computer was there. It was back in the old days. There was only one computer, and I was there middle of the night because I'm a kid. And whatever.
Why
It was,
not?
just probably on some freaking stupid ass chat room or something,
Yep.
arguing about Star Wars. And dude, it's like 2 a.m. or something, and I literally hear the exact sound that the front door makes, which is just to my right of that door opening. Dude, I fucking flipped over and looked. Doors closed.
Yep.
And I was like freaking out for a second, but then I remembered the parrot that we had that was sitting right behind me. She would hear sounds enough times, like the front door opening, which is a common thing to happen in a house. She would hear those noises enough, she would mimic them exactly. Dude, it sounded like a fucking high-def tape recorder. It was the exact fucking sound, but it was the goddamn bird.
How
Dude,
long did that...
scared the fucking shit out of me for seconds. I'm like, dude, that was the exact sound of the door opening.
Yeah.
You know,
How long did that bird live after that night?
oh, like, I don't remember. I can't remember if she died at that house or the next house.
I'm just happy that bird was there to torture you.
Nah, she was.
If I get reincarnated, I want to go back in time
To
and
be
be
that bird.
so I can just fuck with you.
Yeah, but that's definitely one of those surprising moments.
Yeah.
She confirmed that it was not her. Susannah does. The small voice warned them not to wake him up. It was coming from the speaker, and the buttons were lighting up in a faint pink. Eddie pushed the button again and asked who the voice was. The voice said that it was little Blaine, the one that he does not see, the one that he forgot, the one he left behind in the rooms of ruin and the halls of the dead. Eddie asks who is he, the bear, which I just like face palm because I'm like, come on, Eddie. Read the damn room. The bear. Little Blaine answers, Big Blaine. He is the ghost in the machines, the ghost in all the machines. Suze grabs her throat as she is afraid, but her eyes are sharp. Her past made this voice a familiar thing. She knew the madness of duality. So
That's a comforting thought.
Yeah, exactly. And so as a sci-fi fan, I could read a whole book on just these two talking about the differences of their times, and as a history fan too. So to touch on it here is something that I dig, even if it's just for a moment for Eddie thinking about it. My next note: the way this is all playing out is great. I love how Eddie just can't help himself. This really shows that it's not him being foolish. He literally can't help it. Like,
yeah, in my notes, like, what? No issues with Eddie being himself? It's only when he's being himself you don't have issues with his silliness, huh?
But it's just like, because there's just, I'm kind of more like Roland, so it's like I would interpret it that he's just being a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And so to read this in this way, I was like, Eddie's not doing this because like he wants to be fucking silly. Like, it's kind of a reaction, right? Like it's his not really fight or flight, but it's psychologically like he's getting in a spot and it's like whatever. It's not really like a choice he's making. It's more of like just kind of it's like a nervous tick almost. So I don't know. That gives me. I'll credit him somewhat on it because I'm more like Roland, where I would just shake my head like, dude, shut the fuck up, you're being a moron.
Yeah.
But
see, that's the kind of response I expected from you. When I saw your note, I was like, really interesting.
Yeah, just because King spelled it out in a way that really illuminated it for me, where it's like, it's not just Eddie being, because we all know those people, right? We've met them all. All of us have met people like that. That just, it's not even not. I'm not saying that they're like Eddie, that it's like a psychological thing. But some people, they're just that life of the party, and they always will be. They're always going to do that kind of thing. And it's more of just, it's kind of their self-declared identity, right?
Yeah.
And I think those things can be annoying at times. But it's like here, King's showing us like this isn't just that. Like this is like I said, I think nervous tick might be the closest thing. Like
this is a full-on blown stress reaction to the incredible stress that he's under. His mentor and guide in this world is gone, chasing a boy who was kidnapped. They lost Oy, and him and his wife now are standing before a speaker box to a train who's sentient.
Yeah.
And then a little voice is saying, shh.
Yeah, and tell him to be quiet, not to wake him up.
Be quiet. Don't wake up that sentient voice.
Looks like Max has to leave, working tomorrow, but as always, listen to the rest as the podcast. Great show once again. Thank you, Max.
Oh, thanks, Max.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, a couple really good insights with this one, especially that stuff about Blaine being gender-neutral Gaelic and everything.
Yeah, definitely news to me.
I will say the shush and Eddie thinking it was Suze, only to realize it wasn't her. Dude, that's just made for the screen.
Oh, yeah.
the him being a stupid little British guy, and then accent and everything. And then, shh, what'd you say? I didn't say anything.
Yeah. So much of this is I just can't wait.
Oh,
for
right.
Mike Flanagan's Dark Tower.
Drop it.
The
Drop it in
hashtag Flanagan's Tower.
Drop it in the chat.
Oh, I don't have it.
Oh, you don't have it ready?
I don't have it ready now.
Hashtag Ted is terrible.
Yeah.
You have one job. No, I'm just kidding. One job only. You don't have to prep the whole show or anything like that.
And then my note here, the little Blaine stuff is creepy. I love, but I do love how Suze relates to it. Like, it's just this weird small voice that's then like, there's a duality. Like, I'm little Blaine, he's big Blaine. Don't wake him up. He's dangerous. But I do love that Suze can relate to it because she can. She came from that. I mean, especially that it's Susannah, right? Odetta and Detta didn't really know each other. They didn't know the other one existed. But Susannah is the merging of both of them, so she would have full knowledge of both, and she would be able to understand almost retroactively what that was like from both ends.
For sure.
So then Suze tells Eddie that they need to go. She urges him again that they need to get away. But little Blaine says too late, which that's a fun thing there. That's perfect for the screen too. Perfect for the screen too, right? Suddenly like we gotta go. We gotta get the fuck out of here now.
This is bad. We gotta go.
Too late. You know. He's awake and he knows you're here and he's coming. Suddenly
that's also not good.
Yeah. Suddenly, the bright orange light come on, and hundreds of pigeons flutter about. Eddie says, "Wait," but little Blaine says, "No, he can't let him catch him. He can't let him kill him too." Basically, he can't kill me too. The lights went dark and then lit up, but not pink this time, but bright red. So that's happy, because isn't red just a happy color? Just happy and whatever. It's not aggressive or anything, is it?
Right.
A massive voice bellows, not from the box, but from everywhere in the city, and it says in all caps, "Who are you?" The hanging bodies around the city tremble from the vibrations of this voice.
Jeez.
Suze recoils with a silent scream. Eddie feels himself shrinking to the imagined terrors of age 11 as he wonders if this is the voice that he feared hearing from that mansion back then. And then in all caps again, "How dare you disturb my sleep? Tell me now or you die where you stand," it booms. Eddie finally gets his wits about him enough to deal with what they woke up. That's essentially what he says. Like, you woke it up, now you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
He pushes the button and says that he is Eddie Dean, and this is his wife Susannah, and they are on the quest for the Dark Tower in the company of Roland of Gilead and Jake of New York. He almost addressed him as Big Blaine, but stops himself and says that if he Blaine, and they want him Blaine to take them there. The voice, and he also says they're also from New York as well. Yeah. The voice returns, telling him not to try his patience, and that all those doors that are closed. So, meaning the doors to New York. Those are all closed. Which that's an interesting thing for Blaine to know and say. Gilead is no more, he says, and all the gunslingers are dead. Then he asks again who they are, and this is their last chance. Then the sound of electricity rises around them.
Oh, that's not good.
Eddie says that it is true. They came through the doors on the beach. Susannah agrees. Blaine tells him to prove it. Eddie says Statue of Liberty. Blaine tells him to go on. And I just feel like there's like a predatory like purr to him. Just how I picture it. Go on. It's Tim Curry's voice in my head.
I know, every time.
It just is.
The only one that competes with it now is Mark Hamill.
I think Mark needs to be Little Blaine.
You think Mark Hamill?
Mark Hamill, Little Blaine, and Tim Curry, Big Blaine.
There you go.
That's for me, that's the 1-2 punch.
Instead of doing the same actor doing two different voices, have two different actors voice it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think that would be really cool, because Mark could
absolutely.
Great voice there. And Tim Curry, I mean, he's a god amongst insects.
It's true.
He says the Empire State Building, the Stock Exchange, the World Trade Center, Coney Island, Red Hots, Radio City Music Hall, the East Village, but then he's cut off as he's finishing the word village. And Blaine says that he believes to them. They breathe a sigh of relief. He tells them to ask him a question, and it better be good or they'll be dead. They'll both be dead no matter where they're from. Suze asks Eddie what he means, and Eddie says he has no clue. So that's where the subchapter ends.
Yeah.
Which is a fun... Again, King's just so goddamn good at these hooks at the end of these subchapters.
Right.
As someone that the first time reading him would often be up late at night reading these in bed when I should have been going to bed. Same here. Yep. Goddamn King. Just give me a fucking ending that I could just put the book down.
Yeah, nice little place to go to sleep on and not have to have it in my brain all day the next day in class.
Yeah, because if I had a nickel for every time I had like 4 hours of sleep,
Because
or
you were
thereabouts,
reading King.
because I stayed up reading this fucking series that first time,
Yeah.
I'd have a shitload of nickels. Anything I missed in the chat here?
Mike says, in my readings, I always hear Blaine as Paul Rubens.
Oh, God. Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, God.
Or the Spleen as Mystery Men.
Yeah.
That's actually just getting released on 4K.
Oh, is it really?
It'll be delivered tomorrow to me.
Oh,
Of course
it
I pre-ordered.
will.
Of course I pre-ordered
Yeah.
it.
Carol says, that's why the others don't go there. The voice comes from everywhere, and it's frightening.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if Blaine has talked before.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And like, yeah. And I have some
Oh, that's right,
I have
'cause,
some notes on that.
Blaine talked to what's his name, and he couldn't answer his question and got fried.
Well, he went in though.
Yeah.
He went into this room. But yeah, I guess that's true. That's probably how they knew what went down, because they didn't go in.
Yeah,
and
they wouldn't
follow
go
him.
in.
But I still wonder, somebody had to
Oh.
have seen it though, because to say like the blue fire and stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
somebody had to have been like the Indiana Jones, the person that's waiting at the back of the room. Yeah, exactly, that guy. And so they probably saw that, and then they fucking hightailed it, and that legend went on. So in my notes here, I love how Suze gets the intuition that they need to run and get the fuck out of there just before Blaine comes on. Just
a little bit late.
yeah, a little. I mean, but for the New York gunslingers, she at least gets it before, right?
Yeah,
May
Eddie doesn't get that.
No, not at all. Oh man, what do you got here?
I don't know what I expected, but the voice of a child coming out and warning him the big Blaine was coming was not it.
Yeah, no.
I just remember being like, what the what?
Yeah.
Also, here's a challenge for you. Prove you're from Utah. Go, or otherwise you'll die.
Can't get a good drink. Fucking ridiculous syntaxes. Mormons, temples. Yeah. Fry sauce. That's the one.
Everyone in the chat, name 2 things from where you're from, so I know where you are, where you're from, so that Blaine doesn't. You know.
Yes, Blaine doesn't zap you.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine the god drums cause the pubes to kill themselves. Then what is the voice of Blaine bellowing from all over the city? What's that going to look like on the streets? Right?
Chaos.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's like an order to their. It's a terrible thing, but I feel like it's somewhat ordered.
They have a rock drawing.
Yeah.
To see who rides the lightning.
Yeah.
That's organized.
It's organized.
That's
It's
we have to do this.
It's tradition.
Yeah.
But suddenly this voice coming out, like, dude, I just feel like all bets are off at that point. I just feel like the streets are going to be very ugly at that point.
Mike's from Pennsylvania. Shoe fly pie and Amish. That's Pennsylvania.
Oh, you know, one thing of Pennsylvania, I think, is where it's at. Is that dude has a pizza shop where they don't melt the cheese.
What?
And I've heard that's really fucking good, and I want to try it. They cook everything, but the cheese is put on raw. And it at first I was like repulsed by the idea, but then I was watching people eat it. I'm like, that looks delicious. I want to try that.
You don't melt the cheese.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
We're going to have to talk about this more.
We'll have a pizza podcast starting soon.
Oh, don't tempt me. You know how much I love pizza.
Also, what do you think the people of River Crossing could hear him as well? We know that they heard the drums from that far, and it's the same speakers.
Yeah.
So do you think the people of River Crossing are hearing this voice right now,
Maybe
or at least faintly?
Maybe they're hearing something, but I don't know if they're going to be able to make out like the words and everything.
Well, they're
like
also
that.
old and deaf. So
That's true.
that's true too. But dude, just thinking of what this would sound like
Especially being in that city, how loud that would be on your ears.
Yeah. And you know, like, this is slightly nerdy. Hopefully it's not too nerdy. But filmmaking wise, you know what I would want to see for this is I would want to see them crank the audio on the dialogue so loud that it peaks, which is when you hit like the top and it kind of like you've heard it in podcasts and stuff where like it goes so loud that you could just tell that you're not hearing everything because you just hit the max or whatever. I would want to see them do that to where it almost sounded shitty because it's so loud and then it overpowers every other sound on the screen.
Yeah.
Just to try to convey like the absolute
yeah.
fucking earth-shattering like level that this is. So also my next note being murder.
From Pennsylvania, never heard of unmelted cheese on pizza. Is what Mike said, and then David
I don't
said,
remember what the shop name is, but it's I think it was Pennsylvania.
And then David said, "Not cooking the cheese sounds like devil's work."
Let's see, non-melted cheese. It's not like a whole thing. It's like one shop. Yeah, in Pittsburgh.
It's in
Place
Pittsburgh.
in Pittsburgh that serves cold cheese pizza. But again, it's not that the whole thing's cold; just the cheese is cold. So yeah, I heard about it, and I'm like, oh well. If I'm ever in Pittsburgh, I'm definitely seeking that place out.
You could make one here, you know.
After I go to the mall from Dawn of the Dead. That's top of my list for
Mike says
Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh's far from him.
Okay. So then my next note, being murderously angered by being awoken. That's something I can relate to Blaine to here. So
I pointed this note out to my wife today when I was going through these sections, and she's like, me and Tad are the same in that aspect. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I know. I've lived with you both.
Yeah.
It's the one thing I she gets up early sometimes, and I'm like, hi, did I wake you up? Like, oh, please don't murder me.
Send the kid in.
No. She's just as bad. Those two just are not morning people.
Just get you just a cheap blender from like the Goodwill or something, and then just
put some screws in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, did I wake you guys up?
I was making a screw smoothie.
Because then you could be afar, right? And if there's any swinging, you won't get hit. My next one, I love that Gilead is widely seen as being long gone. It just adds to Roland's kind of mystique. Also, how the fuck does Blaine know about New York?
And the doors. I added this to your note because I wanted to add to it. How does he know about the doors?
Yeah.
Didn't you get the impression that the doors are made for Roland?
Yeah,
Like Flag tells him about the doors. He's like, you are going to have 3 doors.
Yeah.
This makes me think that some higher power went 1, 2, 3. Oh, what are they going to say? No, the prisoner, Lady of Shadows.
Higher powers Flag. What with those cards?
No, he's reading what higher powers did. Flag is bad. Stop it. So
Hashtag Team Flag.
that's no, stop it. Hashtag Ted is terrible and Flag is the worst. But I always got the impression that the doors were made for Roland. Not that they're like naturally occurring elements, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the way Blaine talks is he's like, the doors are all gone to that where. It's like, what? Wait, so there were others then.
Yeah.
But we should have realized that because how else did the fighter
there's
over?
and the Beatles and the Bible and there's all kinds of things. I mean,
right?
Again, I was at this point reading it the first time. I'm still not convinced this isn't just a long dead version of our world. I just because all the things that we've seen that are like our world. I remember the first time reading it. I think I went through the whole series thinking this is still our world. This is just like post-apocalyptic version of our world, but it's our world still.
Exactly.
So yeah. Let's see what do you got next here.
So he says, ask him a question. And that's where the subchapter ends. We were just talking about this a little while ago, is that King with his endings of subchapters, and here we are leaving off on this one.
Yeah. I mean,
hashtag we're terrible.
Do we have any choice? Find me some subchapters that have some solid endings.
Fair.
Right?
Fair.
So,
Fair.
And then Carol in the chat says Flag is effing with everyone. I mean,
yes, true.
He is a great trickster, that Flag. He's like Loki.
He's
and
a horrible
Loki's beloved.
Because he actually turns good. He starts evil, then turns good. Unlike Flag, who starts evil, stays evil, gets worse.
Yeah, I think we got to start thinking about some new T-shirt designs, and I think Team Flag is
no,
it's definitely something.
I won't stand for it.
Hey, I stood for that slander you got on your shirt there.
It's not slander, sir.
Oh, it is.
No,
definitely is.
This is opinion right here.
Yeah, opinion exactly. It's not fact.
Slander.
It's
not slander
it's
then.
Slandering my good name.
Slander means that it's a fact, sir.
Team Flag in the chat. Thank you, Mike.
Nope.
Thank you.
Nope.
You know what we need is a Randall Flag emoji is what we need.
No.
I guess we could use a wolf or a crow.
Or just put a flag in
a crow and a flag.
A crow and a flag. Yeah, a crow and the flag of your country, wherever you're listening from.
There is like the wolf thing that we see a little bit in the stand, but like
it's the crow.
The crow, man.
It's the crow.
That's the iconic thing for sure.
Like, I don't look at wolves as bad creatures. They're just, predators that get sucked into Flag's thing. But crows, on the other hand, I don't trust those birds.
I mean, playing
all.
Red Dead 2, I hate wolves. I really do. I really hate those bastards. Okay,
because they like to num you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. All right, so this will be the warning.
Warning, spoilers ahead. Warning, spoilers ahead. Warning, spoilers ahead.
For the spoiler section. So if you're on the podcast, this is the point to peace out if you have not finished the primary books of the Dark Tower series, because this is where we will enter the spoiler territory. If you are in the chat, same thing, or if you're watching in the future with this is just a video, same thing. If you haven't finished the series yet, check out here. Don't listen any further. We will spoil stuff, and then maybe come back later after you finish it all at some point. I think all the YouTube stuff will like save your spot. Same with podcasts, unless you completely delete it or whatever. But yeah, this is a spoiler discussion only, so here be spoilers.
Also, you can just go until you see the red screen.
Yeah, that's
So.
or yeah. Oh yeah, I guess in terms of if you're fast forwarding through like the
if
video
it does lose its spot, look for the red.
Yeah, indeed.
Not the green, the red, because the red is better.
What? Well,
Nothing.
Red, black,
Red.
All right, so spoiler discussions. Let's see. So the first one I have here, the Maud and Jeeves stuff is kind of heartbreaking on reread because they're played very sympathetically, and you know that Blaine's gonna end up killing them all because of the gunslingers. And this goodbye scene is hard to read, knowing what is coming.
Yeah,
it's just.
Lud is always hard to go back and reread after you hear that everyone and anything in Lud gets gassed.
Yeah.
Especially after doing research into like World War I and listening to stuff and reading stuff about like how bad chemical weapons were then. Yeah. Imagine what this world that's incredibly messed up has come up with.
Yeah, and advanced.
Yeah. It's kind of like there's a Batman game that I love that has Scarecrow's fear toxin. Gas masks do nothing. It's absorbed through the clothing. That's what I picture here, and I think Blaine even covers it a little bit. I try not to read forward when we're doing book clubs, past where we are, but I'm pretty sure that Blaine talks about how bad the toxin, like the nerve toxin is, or the gas that he releases is.
Uh-huh.
And I can't help but feel bad, like here, for some of these people in Lud. Like I know they're crazy. I know that they're doing horrendous shit, most of them, but still.
Yeah, but they're kind of victims of it all, right?
Right.
Like I don't think. Well, except for the Greys.
They're pieces of shit.
Yeah, I'm okay with them getting gassed.
But like the pubes are just kind of like tricked into their situation.
Yeah. They're kind of creatures of their environment.
It's like if you raised people to believe that there is no outside. And a person's raised inside entirely, never sees outside and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then, they're released outside. Obviously, they're going to have some issues.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that kind of thing, that psychological thing that they believe that if they don't listen to the god drums, they are going to be eaten by zombies. Like, that is going to happen kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, to have them, and then just to have them just all just get gassed. Like, that's their ending.
Yeah, it's pretty.
God, it's so bleak.
That's pretty brutal, man.
Yeah.
And then Mike says, gas aside, they do the lottery many times a day because they are afraid of ZZ Top. Blaine put them out of their misery. I guess that's true.
That's another way to look at it. I never thought about it like that. It's like
true.
end their misery kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Roland does that in book 7 with the walk-in.
Yeah.
Just gets the information from him and then puts him down because ends his misery.
Yeah, for sure. What do you got here?
When Eddie professes his love, and we talked about this, and that Susannah is the best thing that happened to him, I thought for sure he was dead. And when we reached the end of the book, usually a character gets all sweet to make us like them, and then before they die, kind of thing, just like an extra cherry on top kind of thing.
Yeah.
They do a noble act. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
But it was really different here with Eddie for me because you brought it up and you reminded me. I felt this way for a while reading this the first time, coming into Lud.
Yeah.
And then we get here to Lud, and I you know what? I do remember talking to you about it because I thought that the Jake was the misdirection. Is that we're all worried about Jake, we're all worried about Oy, we're all worried about Roland going into the pit of evil, and watch Eddie's the one that gets got.
Yeah.
That's what our conversation was about. And I just, reading this again and like the professing of the love just added to that the first time through.
You think King's doing it on purpose or is it accidental, do you think? Like, do you think he's trying to make people think that Eddie could die?
Gonna go?
Because there's a lot here where it's like, but it's kind of hit. It could have just be just genuine.
I think that when it was written, it probably wasn't that big of a trope. It kind of was done a little bit, but I think the 80s into the 90s, especially into the 2000s, is where we really get that cemented in cliche stone.
Yeah.
That, I'm 1 day from I'm 2 weeks from retirement. That's the guy who's going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened in
just paid off our boat for our retirement. Me
yeah,
and my
that
wife.
happened
Here's-
in Lethal Weapon. I remember that it happened in Lethal Weapon 3. The other thing that always happens on the flip side of that one is yeah, I'm a rookie. This is my second day on the job. That fucker is dead. The away team gets beamed down. Who's the guy in the red shirt? Oh, that's Bob. He's been with us for 6 days.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice to know you, Bob.
Yeah.
What's your wife's favorite flower? We'll make sure to send it to her at the funeral. And he's like, what?
Until Next Generation flipped on its head and put red on the most important character.
I know, right? That's where it's like, wait, what? Doing this homework, I got really mad at Susannah because I still hold a little bit of a grudge for her for abandoning Roland at the end. I know we've talked about the ending and the theories that you have about that we have to break the cycle, that Flag is actually the one that can break the cycle and that it's not Roland and everything like that. But even she says here in book 3, no, I don't want to go back. I want to spend the rest of my life going forward as long as you're with me, that is.
Yeah, and you know, dude, when I got to that part, I scrolled down to make that note and saw that you had it because I was the same thing. I was like, here's the fucking groundwork, man. Like,
Here's the groundwork for her leaving.
Not that I think that King had this
Of course.
knowledge, but
We know he didn't have an outline when he wrote this.
So because this is ultimately it, right? Like, yeah, like Susannah, that's the truth of it. Is for her, it was always about the love of Eddie, and I think secondarily, like maybe Jake, because I think if Jake were still around, I don't know that she leaves. But without Eddie and without Jake, and it's just Roland, no, there's no reason for her to stay. So it is really cool when she's like, no, I don't want to go back and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's kind of goes against what ends up happening. But then she says, as long as you're with me, I'm like, aha! And I scroll down and saw you already had the note. I'm like, good, got that note worked out.
And I understand exactly what you're coming from. Where it's like, no, she clearly lays the groundwork that she is not a tower junkie. She is not going to go all the way to the tower. Regardless of Roland and Jake and Eddie and Oy, all of them could die in a fire and she'd still be going by herself.
Eddie speaks for her earlier in this book when he's like, if you die, we're going ahead.
But she doesn't say
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's just like Eddie's kind of being the whole like, hey, I'll speak for her when really, no, you're wrong. Like, she's only in it so far as you're in it. So
yeah.
Which is cool. I think I think it adds a lot of depth to her character.
It's funny that we both went to go make a note about that.
Oh yeah, because it's just,
like as soon as I saw that line, even though it wasn't my section and everything like that, I'm like, like I knew you were going to be like, look, there's the groundwork. We knew that we should have known that she was going to leave and cry off and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, still, but what would have happened at the end if Susannah had died at Alguciento? I mean,
Algaciento.
I doubted myself because I always say Cancun Rey, but yeah, Alguciento.
Yeah, Cancun Rey is the tower.
Yeah,
so.
if she had died instead of Eddie,
he would have gone with.
Yeah. Which means that Eddie and Roland would have been able to take turns sleeping, and Mordred may have got the drop on Eddie, but I feel that he still may have survived a Mordred attack. Oy, on the other hand, had no chance against Mordred. Oy had no chance against Mordred.
He still dies. Roland doesn't get to the tower with anyone. It's just.
Or he gets to the tower and the Crimson King kills Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. Roland doesn't get to the
tower's door. There was too many
door.
defenses there.
Eddie gets past, like, whatever. I just think that, when Roland gets to that door after the Crimson King's been taken care of, he's alone. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's kind of one of those things that even in retrospect, I probably should have seen that coming too.
Right.
It wouldn't feel right. It's Roland's quest to the Dark Tower. Like, everyone else is kind of expendable. And it's easier to see that in hindsight, but I just don't think that anyone could have made it with them. I mean, yes, now Patrick was turned away to go on his own away.
Yeah.
And maybe Eddie could have had that, but I think Eddie probably would have got by a sneech or something, most likely. So
Carol says, was just reminded that I'm a tower junkie, and Mike says, we all are, Carol. #DTP.
And earlier she says, you're all going to die in there, in my Resident Evil voice.
I haven't played that many Resident Evil.
I've only played, and then it was Mike says, LOL Carol, speaking of haunted machines. And I don't remember. I've only played the first 3, though. So there's a shitload of more games I need to jump into at some point. But
that's true. Spencer says, but would Eddie have saved Roland from Dandolo? Dude, I don't know. Eddie loves a good joke.
Yeah, he probably would have started doing it. They probably would have been doing a duo.
The only reason
Dandolo would have started joking, and Eddie would have got up and started doing jokes, and then they would have killed him faster.
But what is it, like a canker sore or a cold sore that makes Susannah was on her way to dying too. She
Yeah.
wasn't saved because of her lack of sense of humor or her lack of anything.
No, yeah.
It's just that the wound opened up and then she had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that happened. So I imagine Eddie would have had something
So
like
they
that
would both
as well.
would have died there without.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, it's true. It had to work the way it worked for sure. But yeah, I do love that even if it's inadvertent, King ends up giving us some precursor to Susannah's decision. And I think it's right for the character too. Again, Eddie is all sold out on the tower. He says, if you die, I'm going ahead. He includes Susannah in there. But ultimately for her, she's never in that. And I think that's the thing where she's that's why she gets a happy ending, is because she's not a tower junkie. All the other characters are tower junkies, and so they're kind of cursed to either die or get into this loop type thing. So, yeah, great stuff. What do you got there? Tower Junkie Anonymous?
Yeah. That's what Dark Tower Plower should be renamed as Tower Junkies Anonymous.
Of all the scenes in the vast expanse of this series, one of the best scenes for Oy, in my opinion, is this stuff under Ludd. I feel like largely this is kind of his biggest moment in the series. He has other moments, but I just feel like if quintessential, if you say Oy, and I'm trying to picture it, and I'm picturing a scene, not just him sitting there on the fucking ground, it's this. Like this. I feel like kind of like, Eddie had his big part, and Susannah, they all had their part in drawing Jake. Later, we know that Eddie's going to have his moment with Blaine. Susannah's going to have her moments with the Orizes. Like, everyone kind of has their times to shine. I think this is Oy's. This really is, like, massively one of his big moments. Like, they're fucked without him.
It's
here.
I
Jake
think it's the third biggest moment for Oy.
I think it's his
When you think of Oy, the first thing that has to come to my mind, and I'm surprised that you're not
attacking
saying
Jake
this.
on the bridge.
Stop it. You stop it.
Oh,
I will not have slander against Oy, the brave, the greatest character according to us, our fans.
most beloved.
Most beloved. You will not slander his name anymore. No more. I will not hear of it.
But what were you saying before
The death of Jake.
I mean,
next to the gravesite and everything like that, that is Oy's moment.
I mean,
but then also coming to the defense of Roland against Mordred.
No,
And his death, like that. Those two for me come to mind first when you say Oy.
And not me. And part of it could be that those aren't necessarily things I want to come to mind with Oy. Whereas it just feels like it's kind of his biggest moment. I guess the only other one I'll accept maybe, and I wouldn't take it over those two again, because I think the negativity and sadness of those scenes make it less. You know what I mean? Like, because I guess I shouldn't say best. I'm saying like quintessential for me. Like what comes to mind? Like when you say Roland, randomly at work, if I just come up to you and say Roland to Shane, like what comes to mind? Like especially if I said scene, not just like a picture, but like what moment would come to mind?
Toll.
Okay.
Toll
and I guess
came to mind.
so. I guess that's what I'm saying. So I shouldn't say I guess I don't want to say best, because that is very debatable. But if we did that exercise and just randomly you just threw characters at me and I whatever kind of like word association for Oy, it's this.
I just walk up to you randomly and I just say Eddie.
Yeah. And I think that this is it for him. And again, some of that might be the negativity of the other scenes you mentioned, which yes, those are big scenes certainly. But I think this is kind of his biggest scene, because like ultimately it can't go without him. This is all him. Like they need him for this. Otherwise Jake's done for. There's no way Roland can follow. Yeah. So I just feel like it's kind of one of his, and not to say that it's all downhill from here for Oy. He has moments in the future certainly, but for me, quintessential. You mentioned the name and I think of it. This is going to be the scene that comes to mind for me. The only other one I'll say importance wise is the fucking mind monster thing, where they have to go into Oy because Oy can kind of.
What about the bugs and the Dixie Pig? They had no answer for those bugs, but Oy was made for it, man.
Yeah.
He killed all those little bastards.
He has plenty of it for sure, but I think also, I think this is just deeply rooted because it's so early in the series too, that I think it's just, this is the scene that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like for me, for Oy, it's just like going through this fucking hairy ass motherfucking maze that looks like a goddamn junkyard. That's how I visualize it. You know, I just feel like it's one of those, you're claustrophobic thinking about what it would look like. And that little tiny furball, you know, going through there with his muzzle down, chanting Jake. So, yeah. Let's see. What am I missing here in the chat?
So Mike says spoiler for my favorite Dark Tower moments, which is fine.
Yeah, we're in the spoiler section.
Yeah. When Oy says "I ache" or "Bye Jake" is my number one Oy moment. Carol says Mike and you and Tad need a higher level of care.
Why?
Because you're both Flag fans.
He's just so beloved.
No,
he's so
n-
lovable.
No, he's not. And you're not allowed to say crap about Flag until you read Eyes of the Dragon.
Oh, I can.
So, no.
Oh, I can.
No.
Sir.
Bad Ted.
My life for him, sir.
You're the worst. You're the worst.
And then my last note here about this same moment for Oy is I cannot wait to see it on screen.
It's going to be so epic, isn't it?
Yeah. Like this whole scene. And do you think it cross cuts like this on screen, or do you think you kind of take it in bigger bites where maybe you get a lot more of Oy and Roland and then a lot more of Eddie and Susannah?
I could see it being bigger bites. I could see that.
Yeah. Let's see. And then Carol just says I submitted 19 moments and missed that one. Which one did Mike
It's
mention?
the by Jake.
Okay.
By
Yeah.
Jake.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that it's just a really cool moment for him, and just everyone in the quartet has multiple times to shine, but I think they all have one. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying it's definitive for everyone, but for me, there's going to be a moment for every character that just what's knee-jerk reaction. What is it for these characters? And for Oy, it's this for me. It's just because this is just
See, now,
it's
if
badass.
you word it that way, the moment to shine, absolutely, it's him leading Roland to Jake. That's honestly, I would say even past that, I'd say the fight here that's coming up in the room.
Yeah,
that is where Oy fucking earns his title of best boy.
Yeah,
He does everything, even after getting wrung like a rag.
You're bringing it up
always
now.
think. Well,
Look at
yeah,
that.
because I'm talking about the scene, not just because I want to cause pain to someone. There's a difference, Tad.
See, here's the thing. In that room, I can't help but think that Roland will find a way. Here, under this thing, to get to that room, nah.
Roland couldn't not find a way to get that door open. He says it.
Yeah.
He says it explicitly. Without Oy, I never would have got in.
I still think cool. Let's get him to the room without Oy first. Again, that's just, and it just it feels iconic too. It just feels like a big moment. I think it'll be, I could just see someone once it's on film from Mike Flanagan, hopefully, somebody editing it with Eye of the Tiger playing as he's going through the, or no, maybe not Eye of the Tiger, but the Rocky theme, the fly now.
The training.
Yeah.
Mike says it's so sad. Really, does a dog get to say goodbye to his boy? Usually they just lay down in the grave and die themselves. So, I mean.
Wow, you're embracing the dark side.
What? That's usually what dogs do. Is they don't usually go on. Oy is such a good boy that he listens to his master's last request and goes on. And
maybe
saves
that's why
Roland.
the pharaohs are buried with their animals.
That's an idea.
Or
there
Mr.
Was,
or Mr.
There was an idea.
Or Mr. Burns that was going to have Smithers buried with him when he died.
Oh gosh, even though Smithers wasn't dead.
All right, but that's it for this episode. That's the end of the spoiler section. It's awesome though. So we have one more this year. It will be on the 17th, where we'll be coming back for part number 21.
One more book club is what he's
book
saying.
Club,
One more episode.
One more book club, and then we'll carry over. We're gonna end up having. We're on 120 right now, and we are going to end at part 25. So we're getting real close.
We're getting there.
We're getting real close. Let's go.
Before we do the extra stuff, we do have to have a conversation about the hangout, and I don't want to do it right at the end of the episode because a lot of people have tuned out sometimes. We have not.
Oh, I was gonna handle that on Patreon.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But Patreon folks, we'll be in contact very soon about the hangout for November.
Right.
So let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick. First, if you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on any podcasting service of your choice. Stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. Join us on the live streams at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. And if you're joining us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And then if you want to find the show notes, you can do that at darktowerpalaver.com. No show notes for this episode, but you can find all things darktowerpalaver.com linked there, as well as the thing for our email. If you want to send something in for your March Madness, you can make sure to do that. We have until the end of the year, so we got a couple more episodes that we'll have. We have 3 more episodes before the end of the year. And literally the Roundtable 131 is on New Year's Eve. So that's the last of the year. But you have until then. I want that to be kind of the deadline for the March Madness thing, so we can start whittling those down and figuring it out. And then if you want to come support the show, you can do that at Patreon at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. And if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the best ways to do that.
If you don't go to the website to click on the handy links on the right side, you can email us. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Our social media is Twitter. It's at Dark Tower Pod. That's at Dark Tower POD. At least until Sombra takes them, the rest of the way down. Facebook is facebook.com/Dark Tower Palaver. Instagram is Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. It's tpublic.com/user/Dark Tower Palaver.
Yes, indeed. So we will be back in a fortnight. We're back on schedule now, so we'll be back in a fortnight for the Roundtable 130, which is on the 3rd of December. We'll be back then, and so long as nothing strange happens, we'll be back every fortnight between here and New Year's Eve, where we'll end the year 2022 with a bang, hopefully. So we'll sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you guys for all joining us. Everyone on the United States side, happy Thanksgiving as it's coming up. Enjoy some turkey and think of Peter as you do it. You guys are awesome, though. Thank you guys for being here, being involved in the chat. It's always a lot of fun, a lot of insight, a lot of opinions, a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
Not as many emojis today as we normally have, but that's hopefully we can rectify that in a fortnight. We'll load the damn thing up with emojis here on the 3rd of December. So just for Peter's sake.
Sure we will.
You guys are awesome. We will see you guys in a couple weeks.
In a fortnight?
Yes, indeed. Fortnight. Indeed.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.